Good morning. So wonderful to see you all here today. Thank you all so very much. My name is Ryan Ashton. I'm the Vice President of Development here at your Aquarium of the Pacific. And first off, I just want to say welcome to all of you here. I want to say welcome to the Aquarium staff and our board members that are here with us today, to our program supporters and our community partners, to the high school students that were able to make it here from Long Beach Unified who took the time on a Saturday to join us here, to the chaperones that helped them get here, to those of you that are watching online, because we are streaming live right now, and of course, to the members of the 2021 and 22 cohorts of our African American scholars. So thank you all so very much. But last but not least, I do want to welcome the families, the friends, and the mentors of these scholars who may be watching online. We know that these students are here because of the support systems that you create, and it's so important. These support systems that we create is vital to the success of all learners. So thank you all. All right, so today we are celebrating the Aquarium's African American Scholar Program and the 11 scholars named to the 2022 cohort back in February of this year. Since its origination in 2020, the African American Scholars Program has differentiated itself from other academic scholarships by focusing on opportunities to grow a community of engaged and exceptional students who are able to explore career and academic options with the support of each other and the Aquarium. Today is the opportunity for our scholars to come together, to connect with each other, the Aquarium, and our connected community. Today's event and its program success would not be possible without the support from our donors. I would like to say thank you to the Amundsen Foundation, to the Boeing Company, to Kathy Eckert, Lori Prince, and Robert Hume, Palms and Associates, the Scholzman-Neary Foundation, and our anonymous matching donor who has given a $10,000 donation each of the last 3 years to encourage others to give towards this effort. And finally, I do want to say thank you to the members of our selection committee for their thoughtful consideration of the applications and the candidates. And in just a few weeks, they will again help us select the third cohort of scholars who we will feature at next year's symposium. And as a reminder, the applications are still available on the Aquarium's website. The deadline is November the 25th, so please help us spread the word, especially those of you that are watching online as well. And next up, I would like to introduce our Director of STEM Pathway Initiatives, Allie LeBeau.
Thanks, Ryan. Hello, everyone. In my role at the Aquarium, I get the opportunity to interact with these scholars. I bother them with emails all the time. I have the privilege of connecting them with each other, connecting them with members of the Aquarium staff, connecting them with events, connecting them with other opportunities. So I am so excited for everyone to be able to meet them and get to know them a little bit better today during our presentation. Here's what we're going to do. Our first morning session will be an opportunity for you to meet 7 members of our 2022 scholar cohort in person and 1 remotely. They were challenged to present a lightning talk, which is a 5-minute presentation. They were challenged to share their story, their science, their successes, their aspirations, a little bit of their journey with each other and with you. And so here's how this is going to work this morning. I will share all of their names in the beginning. In order, they'll come on up. They'll give their incredible, amazing, prolific, articulate, inspiring presentation. They'll then have a seat. No pressure. They're all looking at each other like, we were not told that was going to be the expectation. They'll have a seat, and the next person will come up. After all of our presentations, our speakers will come up to the front, and the audience will have an opportunity to ask questions directly to them. We know that this is so valuable because, unfortunately, marine science and the faces of marine science do not reflect the community in which we are situated. In order to be it, you must see it. And today, we have high school students, We have undergraduates, we have master's students, and we have PhD students, as well as professionals in their career who are going to speak to each other and to the community to represent that you can do it, that you are inspiring, incredible, and you belong in marine science and in the work of the aquarium. Whether you choose STEM and marine science, that's your choice. But you belong at the aquarium, you belong in conservation, you belong in ocean education. There is a place for you, and today we are going to spotlight how incredible you are. We do have one presentation that is a video. One of our scholars was not able to attend today, so we will start with a video, and then we will have our live presentations. We will hear from Paloma Wood, Amanda Frank, Daniel Rankins, Nefertiti Chrisman, Darren Towns, Sam Walks, Jacqueline Rogerson, Nicole Thompson. Are you ready? Well, you got 2 to go, so you're good. You have a little bit of time. All right. Please give everyone a round of applause. Again, you're going to save your questions till the very end, and we're going to start with a video from Paloma Wood.
Hello everyone, my name is Paloma Wood, and I am a recipient of the Aquarium of the Pacific African American Scholarship in 2022. I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there right now. I really wish I could see all your beautiful faces, but hopefully this recording will suffice. I hope to be able to see all of you one day. Alrighty, so let's get started. So I have a question for you guys. If you were a drink, what were the ingredients that made you who you are? I mean, we all have different morals that create us. So what would be your ingredients? For this presentation, I'll talk about the 4 largest ingredients you need to make a paloma. And no, not the type of paloma for those of you that have been to a bar. The ingredients that make me who I am are the ocean, the idea of protection, empathy, investigation, and definitely bonus points if you have a Kraken tattoo on your arm. My first ingredient is, well, being a mermaid. Yes, I am totally a mermaid. Well, at heart. When I was a kid, I used to spend hours at the ocean swimming like I had a tail at the bottom of my feet. And for those of you wondering, I absolutely adored H2O. Growing up in an African spirituality, I was taught to view different environmental systems as symbols of important spiritual beings, which taught me to look at the earth in a more spiritual way. Here, I want to present a poem I shared 2 years ago discussing the Orishas and how they have taught me lessons. I've been able to accept change because of the spiritual forces that I work with, my favorite beings, the bodies of nature that surround us all. These Yoruba practices have instructed me at a young age to listen to the world that I participate in. Imagine a little girl with little care for her surroundings. She runs to the ocean and she sings. Yeah, Maya, come get me. Yeah, Maya, come get me. Yeah, come get me. Yeah, come get me. Her request was soon executed as the huge ocean waves reached up and swallowed her, taking her away from the human world. Swimming with the fishes, she meets with the Orishas, who each give her different advice. When swimming, she found Olokun, who stayed deep in the ocean and swam around her 7 times. On land, she met with Chango, who grabbed a bolt of lightning coupled with thunder and threw it to the soil. Oya then greeted the girl with a gust of wind, which left as fast as it came.
Eventually, she found Oshun and studied the way the water moved in the river. Forever molding rocks, in the river, nothing stayed the same. Eventually, I grew up. And through studying nature, I realized change is the most natural experience of all. From experiencing the orishas, these were my lessons. Just as fast as something can swallow you up, it can spit you out. You may meet someone along your journey, but your time together will end eventually. Even lightning is only a second of light, and thunder is a temporary noise. Wind only occurs in windy moments, and the river molds rocks every second of every day. Change is inevitable. Change is constant and naturally consistent, but throughout my conservation journey, I found that most people will either resist or ignore change.
This was a poem I had the opportunity to present at the Doris Duke Conservation Scholars Program, where I explained how the Orishas have shaped my life. I am an ocean baby because I love the ocean, but more importantly, I am an ocean baby because I want to protect the ocean in any way that I can. This brings me to my next ingredient, protection. Growing up as a Black woman in America, I know all too well what it felt like to be denied protection. But it would happen so often and so much that I would simply settle for feeling unsafe because I was conditioned to think that that was okay. Maturing for me meant realizing that we all have the right to feel protected and safe. This is not something that is only meant for the privileged, though in our current society, a part of privilege is to be protected. I want to expand on protection for all species on the planet. And my dream is that there will be a time in which protection is restructured to fit all of us collectively, regardless of race, gender, or species. It is through my deep empathy of all species that I have found my passion in environmental science. As a child, I remember I was quick to cry and show emotion, and also quick to help others in need. As an adult, I found myself so upset at my deep emotion and that I feel too much, so that I want to cut myself off from the ability to feel them. I've learned to accept these emotions as passion to both care and protect, two morals that to me seem to be diminishing on this planet. Additionally, I found that all species are impacted by our environment, and how we treat our environment directly impacts our species. So our own morals collectively are being shown through our environment. That is why I'm dedicated to finding the root issue for the different problems that plague us. If our Earth is experiencing a deep collapse of our interconnected networks, then we must find the root cause to be able to move forward in a cohesive fashion that benefits everyone. More importantly, it's important to relay this message to everyone so that we all have the same level of understanding when it comes to the issues at hand. Overall, I identify heavily with the octopus because of the adaptation techniques the creature has. The ability to move out of any situation and evolve through every trauma. I know that we have collectively been through a lot, but I think, like an octopus, we can adapt. We could connect with the landscape around us and learn to give just as much as we take. We can demand protection as our everyday right, and we can empathize with the creatures around us. Lastly, we can collectively investigate and share the core issues in our society so that we may fix the problem together as a community. That is my dream that I want to share with the world. That is who I am. Thank you for listening.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Amanda Frank. I am a undergraduate student at Cal State San Marcos. I'm a biology major. I'm a biology major with an emphasis in ecology and a minor in sustainability. I believe the ocean is an amazing place, and that's fueled this admiration to work in marine ecology and the conservation of the delicate communities that make the ocean a successful place. I decided to join the pollinator research back in fall of 2021, and this is mostly because of the 2020 lockdown. During that time, I learned to have a passion for gardening, and I wanted my college experience to include being in the garden. Fortunately, I had a professor who was in charge of the garden research. I was able to introduce myself, and she let me join. I learned pretty quickly that the gardens were a perfect middle ground for my interests, being in the garden and the ocean. Okay, so I'm sure you've noticed my research isn't marine, but it's coastal. It's all tied together. Our research focuses on the insect interactions with the dominant plant species of Southern California, which is coastal sage scrub. Coastal sage scrub can be seen along of our southern coast, right after the sand dunes, and it takes about 10% of plant coverage. CSS is heavily influenced by our local marine trends, but it's also vital to the stabilization of soil and the retention of water. The health of our native plant species relies on our ability to support and maintain our pollinator networks. In the past decade, pollinator gardens and pollinator pathways have been really popular, and they're all planted in the hope to support and guide the diversity of pollinators. But how do we know that they're working? We test it. In our program, we have 3 large projects. I'm the coordinator for Project 1. We are currently analyzing our data from the last year, but we're looking at things like how many species we're seeing, when they're showing up, and what gardens, also how frequently. I found a lot of this is correlated with the season and the available resources. Personally, I've seen that our native species, their appearances are tied to our CSS blooms. You'll see native invertebrates like the bumblebee, who prefers to show up in our nature reserves and our low activity gardens. They prefer to pollinate in areas that are largely undisturbed by human activity. But then you'll see the honeybee. Who could care less? They show up all season in every garden. If there's a flower, a honeybee will find the way. I truly appreciate having the opportunity to work as a pollinator research, even though I want to be a marine scientist. Quite honestly, the work that I'm doing now is helping me build a foundation for strong field research skills. A lot of students, when they do their research, they want to stay focused on their future careers. You don't have to do that. Honestly, you shouldn't limit yourself in that way at all. Look for things that meet all of your interests. Ernest Shackleton said it the best. It is in our nature to explore, to reach for the unknown. The only true failure in life is not to explore at all. Thank you.
All right. Hey, everybody. So I'm here to tell my story. Anyone who knows me knows I can talk a lot, so this is going to be the extremely abridged version of my life story. So, that button. So I'm from here, Long Beach, California. Born and raised here, was here most all my life. My dad's African American, and I was Mexican American. I went to Long Beach City College, where I got an associate's degree, got a bachelor's at UCI, and I'm actually still at UCI, where I'm now in my second year of the PhD program there. So a little bit about how I got started. I always loved animals. Animals were really cool. My parents were charter members of the Aquarium, which means I've been coming here since I was born. So really loved animals, but I thought science was lame. Somehow I never conflated the two, like animals and science, they go together, but that just didn't click for me at a young age. And I was cool. As you can see here, I was kind of too cool for school. But then in elementary school, my best friend at the time really wanted to do the science fair project. And I'm like, I mean, if you really want to, I guess I'll do it with you. And then I started doing all this. So this is me at like science fair, I want to say 2nd grade. This is me at like a young scientist camp at Cal State Long Beach. Yeah, he really transformed me. So I just really got into science. I just love the idea of testing out ideas, doing research, just doing interesting things to find out the way the world works. And I just fell in love with that. So I kept doing that. I kept going that direction into college. So I went to Long Beach City College at first, went to community college. I certainly did not have the money to go to a university. That was just not something that was in the cards for me at the time. So I knew I wanted to go to university, so I just did everything I could to get there. So I joined a bunch of clubs, tried to be really active, and there's this program called TAG, which is like Transfer Acceptance Guarantee, which means, if you have a certain GPA, you're guaranteed to get into a UC. I didn't meet that requirement. I was kind of close, but I just didn't. But I got in anyway. Being a diverse student, whether you're doing clubs, whether you're working, that's what really matters. Your GPA, it's not as big a deal as they tell you. Don't tell anybody I told you this. I know it's being recorded, but don't tell anybody online. C's get you degrees. As long as you're good and you excel in other places. So I got to UCI. Yeah, there we go. GPA, however, it kept going, down. I thought, I'm in university now. I'm good student. No. Once you go from a classroom of like 50 students to 400, it really changes how you have to do things. And adjusting to that was really difficult. But I knew I wanted to get into research, so I was able to join a research lab. I did that just by recommendation of a friend. Having connections is going to be the most important thing throughout your entire life, just knowing people. So I got into a research lab. So I worked for Dr. Donovan German, and my mentor was Dr. Beck Worley. These are great. They were great. They did not care about how I was doing academically, but they just helped support me as a person. They were a mentor. And that's really the most important thing, I feel. And so I started doing some research. You see me, doing actual science things, got to help breed some starfish. I got to work with the microscope. And once actually I did research, it kind of just changed how I started thinking about science, started changing how I think about studying, getting real hands-on experience in these diverse experiences really helps you develop as a person, and it helps you overall. So I knew, all right, I want to get my PhD now. So I applied in 2020 and did not get in my first time. I just flat out, I didn't get any invitations to interview anywhere. I was down the dumps. Luckily, 2021, it went a little bit better, and I did get in, and I got to keep working with Dr. Donovan German. And I'm also working with Dr. Kwesi Connor. And Kwesi, working with Dr. Connor has been great. I can tell you, in all my years of school, I've personally only met, I think I can count on one hand the amount of black STEM professors I've met. It is unfortunately far too much of a rarity, and getting to work with someone who, kind of understand your life experiences has been amazing. Unfortunately, that's not something I can promise you'll get to have, but the fact I've had that's been great. So just going to talk a little bit about what I do for research. I do a lot of nutritional physiology, understanding how animals digest their food. So I'm studying the prickleback family of fish. What's interesting about them is that they're a large species, the large family with many different species, but they all live in the same place and then just eat completely different foods. So one thing I'd look at is their actual morphology, which is their form, their physical shape in the world. So one thing you can see here is a carnivore, their gut length is about 50% of their body length, but with an herbivore, their gut length is longer than their entire body. So you can see how their bodies are adjusting to different diets and it's completely changing how their bodies are developing. And then just another thing I'm looking at is their physiology, which I would just call their function. So I look at digestive enzymes. Digestive enzymes are just things that'll break down proteins, fats, carbohydrates, that kind of thing. And then this is kind of what you'd expect. All right, I'm looking at pepsin. Pepsin is a enzyme that'll break down proteins. So that was the wrong button. Oh yeah, that's a back button. There we go. So this kind of goes how you expect. Herbivores have lower activity because they're not having as much protein. Omnivores are starting to raise up a bit, and then you can see it's highest with the carnivores. So it's not really super complicated to understand, but these are not things you're going to really know unless you test these things. And we want to know, how their diets is really affecting everything about these animals. And so we're also looking at genetics. You probably know about gut microbiome, and there's this giant community of bacteria within your gut. And I don't have a pretty picture for that, but I'll get to it eventually. And then we'll see how there's just different communities of bacteria that are going to survive based on what nutrients you're putting in your gut. And so there'll be some interesting differences there. And so I just want to thank you all for being here on a Saturday. Especially, I know I would probably be at home playing Pokemon right now. So I appreciate that you're all here. I want to give a big thank you to the Aquarium for supporting me in my research. A big thank you to the German lab, the Connor lab, and last but not least, I definitely want to thank my parents. I've definitely had a lot of hardships and difficulties in my life, but my parents' love and support has made me more privileged than I could possibly imagine. So I want to give a big shout out to them.
That was such a good presentation. So that was great, Daniel. No. Hi, my name is Nefertiti. I am a PhD student at the University of California, Irvine, and I'm in my 4th year. I'm also in the same lab as Daniel, the person who presented earlier. So I just first want to give a big thank you to all of the people that helped me get here to where I am today. First off, my family, my daughter and my husband, and my lab, the German lab, Rich Sharif, the UCHBCU Fellowship, UCI, and also the Diversity Project, which I'll talk a little bit more about, but this particular program is the reason why I'm here today. And of course, a big thank you to the Aquarium of the Pacific. So first off, I'll tell you a little bit about my journey. We'll skip to college because this is a short talk. I went to Hampton University, which is a small, historically Black college in Virginia. Here, I majored in marine and environmental science. Beginning freshman year, we were a cohort of 10 people, and as we graduated, we slowly, quickly dwindled down to 5 students graduating with this degree. It was quite rigorous, but my cohort, we got really close, and we studied and shared tests and quizzes. So that's before the test, not during. We didn't cheat, okay? We studied and reviewed. And while I was at Hampton University, I had the opportunity to go to Moorea, which is a small island right next to Tahiti. And I was able to do that by applying for an internship called the Diversity Project. And so this internship, I was able to get scuba certified and scientific diver certified. And so here's a picture of me diving in the Pacific Ocean. And here is where I was able to cultivate my interest in marine science and my interest in getting a higher degree post-undergrad. And so I really appreciate the mentors that were in charge of this program, and they helped me apply to grad school and all those things. So I really appreciate the Diversity Project. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about my project now. I'm kind of obsessed with sedimentation. It's super cool, not for me or the animals, but to study. So this is an example of a sedimentation plume. It happens after a rain event, and most of the time it happens after the coastline is developed, and then there's nothing holding the sediment onto the terrestrial land. And so it just runs off into the ocean, and so you get this sediment plume. And so I'm really interested in what happens underneath the sediment plume. For example, since we're on the coast in Long Beach, there are shipping channels. And so to make shipping channels, you have to dredge or dig up from the bottom of the ocean. And so this could have a number of effects. For one, it could re-release toxins. It could disturb the hunt and prey activity because fish can't see, so then they can't eat. It could upset benthic spawners and all those things. And so I'm really interested in what happens to fish physiology once the sediment is within the water column or in the water. So I developed an experiment to show this. In a lab, like a mini aquarium, I had 2 different containers full of water, one clean water, one water with sediment, and over the course of 4 weeks, I put zebrafish in there. And just after 4 weeks, the zebrafish turned from very shiny and new looking to very pale. And so there are other results, such as shorter gut length, but this is one of the most notable takeaways. And so it's really important to continue research like this because we dredge our coastlines pretty often, and dredging is important for ships to come in and for, economy and things like that. But also it's important to figure out what's happening to the wildlife so that we can protect them as well as progressing our economy and also helping our fish. So thank you to the Aquarium of the Pacific. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Darren Towns. I'm just going to share, once it goes up, there it is. If you hadn't noticed, my favorite color is purple. I just wanted to start off with that, clearly. I'm just going to give a quick preview of my life and kind of where I'm at right now and hopefully what I can do next. So I'm very family oriented. Up there is my very large, beautiful family in Mexico for the summer. I love the water. I swam for like 12 years competitively before I went to a CSU. So I have always been around water and just had this infatuation with the water. And research is kind of my passion. I kind of learned that later on, but I knew I wanted to you work in the ocean. I just didn't know how. And then when I went to school at the university, I kind of learned that I really like research. So I started swim at a young age, and that kind of boosted my love for the water and just being around the water. And then I learned by watching Dolphin Tale that I can actually learn more about the water and work with animals. It's a great movie. Watch it. And Dolphin Tale 2. It has a sequel, and it is just as good. So I still watch them to this day. I am 22, and that's fine. That's an okay thing to do. But watching that movie originally, I thought I want to be like a Marine vet. And so then I thought, oh no, too much school. So I rerouted that thought, and I was like, I think I'm just going to start with marine biology. So I went to junior college at the town I grew up in, Bakersfield College, for about 3 or so years. And then COVID hit. I had plans to keep swimming and doing all this stuff, and then COVID hit, and it kind of really derailed my plans a lot, I thought at least. And but then I applied to some schools and got accepted to CSUMB, the school that I'm at right now, Cal State Monterey Bay. And I think that honestly it couldn't have worked out better. I love Monterey Bay, and it has really helped like me to grow in marine science, and it's a really good spot to be for that. So I'm kind of happy where I ended up. I became a Aquarium of the Scholar Pacific scholar, and then I'm also right now pursuing my scientific dive certification. I have my open water dive certification and my advanced open water. So hopefully I'm taking the steps up there to do science diving. I just really enjoy research, like David was talking about, just like figuring out questions and finding answers. That kind of really excites me. So I got to participate in my first summer of research this past summer of the buffering capacity of giant kelp, which was really exciting. I had never done anything like it before, and my mentor kind of just threw me in there and was like, all right, come up with something and let's figure it out. And I was like, okay, absolutely. So I did the work, I tried my hardest, and it was actually like really rewarding research, and it taught me a lot, not just about like like myself and what I wanted to do, but it also taught me a lot about research and like the steps that need to be taken, and how it's not just like you find a question, like you have to build your research, you know, you have to put this time and energy into making sure that you understand it and you have the resources. And so it kind of just helped me to form like a research mentality. And so that's why I think that participating in research is really important. And I also recently got a CSU grant to purchase some scuba gear for field work. So that was me testing it out like last week. I didn't die, so that was convenient. That was actually convenient. I texted my family. I'm like, I'm using my gear today. I love you if I don't come back. But it was really exciting. It was successful, so I loved it. And what's next? I am hoping to go to grad school. I'm just not sure where or what to do in grad school. I've been talking to a lot of people about it. And I think that like the biggest thing I've been asking is like, how'd you know what you want to do? How'd you know what you wanted to do? Because I feel like that's the question on everybody's mind. And I think the answer that I've kind of come up with from what everybody's told me is like, just go where your passion leads you. And I think that that can be hard when there's so many, especially in marine science, there's so many things that you can like focus in on. It's such a general like subject. So I think that whatever like you become passionate about, you're doing something or you hear something and then you go start studying it. And one of my teachers would always say like, you go into these zones where you forget to eat or you forget to like take a break. Those kind of zones kind of tell you like the things that you're passionate about. So I've been trying to work with that and figure out what that is. And then I have been thinking about growing up in Bakersfield and not having any access to the ocean or even knowing about marine science until I moved away. And I have been thinking like with my degree, I would like to go back to places like Bakersfield, places far away without any connection, it seems, to the ocean, and kind of bring the knowledge of the connection that we do have back to that area so that people can be more aware. And I think that like I felt at a deficit going to Monterey Bay from Bakersfield because I was like, I'm from the valley. Like, I know absolutely nothing. There were so many of my peers who had gone to like beach schools or like had oceanography classes in high school, and I had absolutely nothing to work with. So I just thought of like being able to take that back would be really helpful for people coming up behind me, and I would really like to be a part of that, just educating students in that. And so like I think I want to go a little bit into education and have the ability to share what I know about our dying ocean to people that may seem that it doesn't really affect them. It feels like it doesn't affect them, and just inspire other students and young people to learn about opportunities in marine science and also research, because I feel like people are like, oh, I want to be a teacher, an astronaut, like, you know, and nobody hears about like you can be a researcher. Like that's also a career that is needed as well. So I think that I would like to bring some more shed some more light on that as well. But yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
It's coming. Okay, well, in the meantime, I am Sam. Oh, there's my name. And I am a PhD student at the University of California, Davis, and I work at the Bodega Marine Lab, which is pictured up on that slide because I didn't want to have a picture of my face up there in huge screen. Uh-oh. Which one's the four? The green, okay. And I feel really lucky usually because this is what I get to do on a day-to-day basis. I get to do all this really awesome hands-on work in these really beautiful places. And sometimes I get really nervous to talk about my path to get here and to be able to do work like that because I feel like I have to have some like profound wisdom for you all. But I'm really excited today because I first got onto this path by working at a different aquarium in Boston at the New England Aquarium when I was like 16 years old. So that's me. And I got to go to all these like really cool places and work with all these really cool animals. And I wasn't really a science person, at least my parents told me I wasn't really a science person when I was in high school. But it was really cool to like figure out that like talking about a lobster or talking about like a horseshoe crab also counted as science. And so that inspired me to do sorts of other cool hands-on activities when I went off to college and studied biology and environmental science at Bowdoin College, which is all the way up in Maine. And so Bowdoin was really small, so we got a lot of opportunities to do hands-on things. So I got to do some experiments in the Rocky Intertidal and the Rocky Coast, up on some field stations up in the northern part of Maine. A lot of the stuff that I'm showing you here didn't really work, but it was really fun. And eventually, I sort of finagled all of this like really hands-on, hand-working things to work. And I wasn't that mad that it wasn't working, so that kind of told me that I was really into doing research. So I kept doing it, and eventually I did a thesis as an undergraduate on like green crab thermal tolerance, and this is me presenting it at a scientific meeting, which was super fun, and that was also really inspirational to start applying to graduate school. We ended up showing that like green crabs from farther south, but still in Maine, so still pretty cold, were able to tolerate a lot warmer water. And so while I was working on this, there were like 3 weeks in the middle of December when I was up in Maine when it looked like this and the temperature didn't get above like 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So if anyone's thinking about going to Maine, go during the summer. So that got me really interested in what like the ecological and evolutionary implications are for extreme weather events like this. And so I came to California, and luckily our extreme events in California don't look like that. So a lot of the marine extreme events are heat waves, like this one called the Blob, which lasted in Northern California between like 2014 and 2016. The Blob is its actual scientific name, which I think is my favorite thing that I've learned as a graduate student. And so that inspired me to go out to the Bodega Marine Lab as a graduate student, which is just another view of it. But so that was, I guess the Blob was 6 years ago now. I started grad school in 2019. But the Blob triggered a lot of like poleward or northern range expansions for a lot of southern species that are actually still there. So I'm really interested in studying some of those species and figuring out how they're like responding to ecological and like environmental differences between Northern California and Southern California. And this clicker is giving me a hard time. But I'm working on that in giant Olympus, which are these really big, like territorial snails. They're all up on the top of the screen there. And I'm interested in how they've changed between or adapted to Northern California, both ecologically and evolutionarily. And this is some of the work that we've been doing. You'll notice that some of on the left side of that graph, they have a really high growth rate in some of the Northern California sites. So not only have they like expanded northward and their populations are still growing, like the graph on the right, they're actually doing really well and growing really quickly, which is super exciting. I'm really proud of this because I always thought I was really bad at math, and being able to figure all of this out and do all these sort of like stats analyses is something I never would be able to think I was able to do. So you can surprise yourself is what I learned throughout my journey. And just to wrap up, I feel really lucky to be able to have done all of this really cool hands-on stuff and meet all of these awesome people like Jackie, who I worked with a lot over the summer. And so, I don't know, I would have never said I was a science person when I was in high school, but like, I didn't realize that all these like really cool hands-on opportunities and all these like questions asking and going outside counted as science. So even if you like don't think you're a science person, it's really awesome to get to try it, and you might surprise yourself. And so thank you all for listening, and thank you to the Aquarium Pacific.
Hello, before we get started, if I say anything in my talk that you feel like resonates with you, I want you to like snap. It's something that I learned that I can like engage with something that I'm watching, and I feel like if I feel a connection to it, I just snap, and it's like it keeps me engaged because I need to do something with my hands. So if I say something and you're like, I relate to that, please snap. I would love if you did that. I'm gonna put this a little lower. I'm kind of short. All right. Hi, y'all. My name is Jacqueline Villiers-Jarrison, and I'm going to talk about my journey into science and art. First things first, here's the game plan. I'm going to tell you who I am, how I got here, a little bit about mentorship and research, and I have some closing thoughts for y'all. So, my name is Jackie. I use she, her pronouns. Those question marks are actually flags of where my parents came from. I am the proud daughter of two amazing people. My dad immigrated from Madagascar, and my mom immigrated from the Philippines, and I was born in the Bay Area. Oh, I also am the, I graduated from UC Davis in 2021 with a degree in marine and coastal science as my bachelor's. I am also the Bodega Marine Lab ambassador. You'll see pictures of me on their social media sometimes. I'm also a first-generation college student, which means I had no idea what I was doing going into college. And outside of science, I like bowling, painting, and I love drinking tea. And my professional goal, yes, my professional goal is that I want to build a world where science is readily accessible to people and communities historically excluded from it. Also, this is Hemo. You can see him on the bottom right of the screen. I take him with me everywhere. He's floated in a couple of tide pools because I do take him researching with me. This looks like a mess, and it really is because life is just messy. But here's how I'm going to tell you how I got through it and how I continue to get through it. So in high school and elementary to high school, I had the privilege of going on ocean-themed field trips provided by two nonprofits. The programs I specifically was a part of was the Limpets program and the Marine Science Institute. And through these experiences, I got to like hold like a sand crab while measuring it at the beach, and it was like, whoa, this little crawly thing is adorable. And I also got to meet a leopard shark, and I was like, wow, sharks are really cool, and you're really adorable too. And those experiences have like stuck with me. That research is not just like, oh, doing all the math and science, like doing all like what you think of science, but it's also the getting out into interacting with the things you're studying, which I thought was super cool. I've always loved biology and drawing. I took art classes in high school and college, and these two processes, science and art, are actually very similar because you observe, you plan something, you try stuff, you fail, you learn, and you ask around, and then you try again. So speaking of college, how did I get there? So I had a lot of help. In the Bay Area, there was this thing called the Puente program, and so in my high school, they equipped me with community and resources. So when I got into high school, I was like, oh shoot, I need another program that does this because first gen, I have no idea what I'm doing, I need help. So I found EOP, which is the Center of the Educational Opportunity Program, which had an awesome community and a ton of resources. And that's how I got from a 2.4 GPA to a 3.0. Oh, and I also got to be a peer advisor, which is a very rewarding experience because then you get to like mentor like people who are like going through similar things when you were younger, and you're like, yes, I finally get to be the person that I needed when I was younger. And part of undergrad is I got to do I did art along the way. One of the coolest things is that I got to do a commission for the Sharkpedia podcast. Go check it out, it's really fun. And I also got to do what's pivotal is I got to do a research class at Bodega Marine Laboratory where me and my research partner, Maya, we got to do our like design and execute and talk about our own project that we did together. And it made me realize like, yes, I can actually do science. So a little bit about mentorship. I really just put this here because I wanted to give a shout out to all of the people in my life. Not all of them are up here. These are just the ones I took selfies with. That like took the time to advise me, to guide me, to support me, and that has helped shape me to be the person that I am today. These are people I met from elementary to high school, and these are people I met in college that continue to inspire me. I think of a mentor as a person that you look up to, that you've met in real life, and think, hey, I want to be like you. Research, a little bit about my research. So, After postgraduate, I'm currently after I got my bachelor's and now I am in my gap years. I plan to go to grad school, but I'm holding off because I want to do other experiences first. And part of that experience is that I got to do this internship at Bodega Marine Laboratory in the Sanford lab, which was funded by the Aquarium of the Pacific. Because I didn't get to do an REU, which is an undergraduate research experience in undergrad. Well, a lot of my peers did. And I was like, oh, I feel like I'm behind. But it's okay. Your journey is your path. Stick to it. Only you can live your life. And so I got to do, through the Aquarium Pacific Scholar Program, I got to do this awesome internship where I got to do two things. One is I got to study this anemone, which is a 10-tentacled burrowing anemone. And what's cool is that it's one species, but they come in many different forms. So the two things I got to do was to craft the language to describe all of these forms, as you can see on the screen. And I also got to figure out what's the distribution of the assortment of these forms across different places where you can find them. That's me in a tide pool. I'm belly down and sticking my hands into the cold water. So I want to leave you with some closing thoughts. The person I want to be is somebody who's in the middle of these three things. This Venn diagram is by Dr. Ayanna Elizabeth Johnson, and it asks you what work needs doing, what brings you joy, and what are you good at? And so the person I aspire to be is in the middle of these three things, which is conservation and ecology, art, and mentorship. And so if there's anything you remember from my talk is that mentorship and community will take you places. And to be creative. I got through a lot of my academic challenges by finding unconventional ways of doing things. And so I leave you with the same diagram as a tool to use to figure things out as well. And one last question, which is, how will you build your future? Thank you for listening. Also, Hima has an Instagram.
Hello, everyone. My name's Nicole, and this is just a little glimpse into my life. Like everyone said, it's a short talk, so I can't talk about everything. But here's just a little bit about me. So I've lived in SoCal my entire life. I'm originally from Riverside, which is about 50 miles east of here, in the Inland Empire. I also have been playing soccer for the last 16 years. I'm still currently playing at my university. That's a little picture of me in my first season. I'm a Christian. I'm a daughter, sister, and aunt. So those are the things that really define me right here. These are my nieces. That's Melody and Eva. They're currently in Colorado. They just moved there a couple years ago. So missing them, but sometimes we'll visit for the holidays. And then I've always enjoyed learning about science and math, particularly science, and just how intricate everything is, how, for example, the human body works together, how your heart pumps. If one thing was off in that, it could not work. And I just think I never in a million years could have come up with a design so perfect. So to me, that's being a Christian, I'm that's just a confirmation of God for me. And then just a little bit about my early life. The picture on the left. The picture on the left is me. That didn't work. The picture on the left is me shadowing at my local veterinary clinic in high school. And so I always knew that I wanted to do something with animals. And I just wanted to get into the field a little bit and see if that is actually something that I wanted to do before I actually go to school for it. And then on the right side is me when I first started getting into soccer competitively. So that was in 8th grade. I started playing club soccer, just kind of went up from there. And then right in the middle was my first experience learning about marine biology. I went to this summer camp my sophomore year of high school in Florida. And so we learned all about marine biology. Our teachers were actually undergraduate and postgraduate students. So it was super cool. I made a lot of friends, and it was a really cool experience. You guys should go watch Chasing Coral because that movie changed my life. It's all about coral reefs and the symbiotic relationship. I don't want to be all nerdy on you, but yeah. So we'll skip ahead a little bit to my college journey. I graduated high school in 2019, and I decided to go to Minnesota. I know you're all thinking, like, who decides to go to Minnesota, like, for school? Like, I did, because I got recruited to play soccer. So it was actually a really weird decision for me because, like Sam was saying, the year before that, there was a polar vortex. So when I'm trying to make my decision to go to Minnesota, I'm looking on the news and it's saying, like, oh, negative 40 degrees, you know, people need to be wearing goggles because your eyeballs can freeze. And my parents, yes, my parents are like, you sure you want to go there? I'm like, yeah. So that's us in the top there, my freshman year. So I was recruited to play soccer. That's why I went. I was there for about 2 years. I majored in biology, but I wanted to do something with animals, so I minored in zoology. So I got to do some hands-on like experiments with the wildlife there. And then I was there for 2 years. I came back even after COVID, but that whole year I kind of decided that I wanted to be challenged a little bit more athletically, and I wanted to do like more stuff with animals. So I transferred, which is not an easy process. A few of my cohort have transferred from like junior colleges to UCs, which is also not easy. I'm going from a 4-year to another 4-year, which I didn't know initially, but it's actually extremely common. So in the beginning, I was thinking like, oh, I felt like I was quitting on myself or quitting on like what I had originally started. But really, I was just following what I knew was right for me. I was talking to a lot of mentors and I was praying a lot, just that I knew that I wasn't growing in the place that I was at and I wanted to do something different. So I decided to take a leap and I transferred to Cal Poly Pomona, which is where I'm currently at. I'm a senior there and I still have 1 more year since I transferred. But yeah, I've been there for a little over a year. I've learned a lot. I'm finally studying what I want to be studying, which is animal health science. So I'm hoping to become a vet tech and like work in rehabilitation and conservation in some way. And then potentially, I originally wanted to be a veterinarian, but yeah, that's a lot of school. So I'm going to take a little break, work in the field, and then I can always decide and go back to vet school if I want to. And then I'm still playing soccer, which you can see in the bottom screen. That's me. In this last fall, and actually you guys don't really need to know this, but I tore my ACL, so this is before I tore it. This is like the last game I played in, so I'm currently recovering from that. It's definitely a journey, but yeah, I'm still on the team. Everyone is super awesome, and I think it's just another way to build community, whatever you're doing, like in school, like join a club, join something, because there's always people that have like different viewpoints and they grew up differently than you, and just another way to make friends. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. Oh, I forgot I had another slide. Basically, this is just, I just wanted to say, like, keep your options open, because I worked in a lab last semester. This is me during one of my labs. We can't take pictures with the lab animals, unfortunately, but that's why I included this photo of me with a little stuffed animal. But yeah, so this is me with my roommate, and we have to wear scrub tops because we work with like cats and dogs. There's a lot of hands-on experience at Cal Poly Pomona. So there's horses on campus and cows, pigs. So like any animal you can think of, we work with. Super awesome. It's the only accredited program to become a veterinary technician on the West Coast. So I'm super happy that I made the decision to transfer there. And then that's me with my teammates. So, yeah. Thank you.
All right, can we have one more round of applause for those amazing presentations? All right, here's what we're going to do now. We're going to transfer them up, and we get to do some Q&A. So my colleague Emily and I have microphones, and we can ask questions from the audience. We're just going to ask that if you have a question, you speak directly into the microphone, since we are live streaming this and we want our remote audience to be able to hear you as well. So who would like to start us off? Oh, thank you. Who would like to start us off with a question for anyone in particular or in general? All right, I'll start. I have a question. So a few of you mentioned having a community college or junior college as part of your journey. We have some high school students here. Here in Long Beach, there is Long Beach College Promise. So if you graduate from a Long Beach high school, you can go to a city college, and then with a certain GPA, you automatically can transfer into Cal State. So that's an opportunity for Long Beach students. Would anybody want to add anything or sort of put out a promotion for City College and the role it played for you? I think maybe some people may think, oh, maybe I shouldn't do that. Daniel, I know that that's part of your story. Will you say a few more words about that?
Sure, is this thing on? I don't know. All right, I talk loud enough. So for me, going to Long Beach City College was really great. They are the same classes you would take at a university. It's not like you're getting a lower form of education. Calculus is still calculus no matter where you take it. History is still history no matter where you take it. It does not matter. Going to even Cal State or university would not have been feasible for me. Just with the amount of things I had going on in my life, just wasn't possible. So LBCC let me, take my classes there. And I stayed there for a while. I was there for like 2.5 years, I think, which isn't that much longer. I definitely know people who've been there longer. And then it gave me time to figure out what I wanted to do. I was pretty involved in clubs, did a lot of volunteer work, and then let me figure out where I wanted to go. And then once I got to university, it really cemented the fact, the classes are no different. It just gives you more time to figure out what you want to do, because why would you know what you want to do when you're, 16, 17, 18? I barely knew what I wanted to do at 25. So I definitely think it's a great way to explore what you're interested in and not have as much pressure on you when you're paying for $15,000 a year at some big school. And even with the school, going to Cal State or UC or any other school, your education's just as valuable no matter where you go. I think, it always sounds nice when you say, oh, yes, I graduated in neurobiology of UCLA. It's no real different than, graduating with a public health degree from a smaller school. You take all the same classes. It just, people like showing off. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Oh, no, go ahead, Dave.
Hand.
You can take.
What am I doing? Am I taking the hand?
Oh, no, you can.
Oh, I'm answering the question. Absolutely. Okay. No, I was just going to talk about a personal kind of aspect of it. I'm a person who doesn't really like a lot of change, and going from high school to college is a big change. So I think to help minimize that change, going to a junior college really worked for me, because I was able to stay at home and be with my family and adjust to harder classes, because it's not the same as high school. It's not as easy, for sure. So I was able to adjust to the harder classes, but have that support system. And still moving from a junior college to a university is also a very large change, but I think that because I already kind of had understood the commitment it took to be in college, it kind of helped. The only aspect I was dealing with really was the emotional aspect, leaving my family and things like that. But I think it helped me a lot going to a junior college money-wise, and also mentally to kind of get through it with the support system first. That's all I was gonna say.
I have a question for some of the nerds up there. Human gut length is about 20 feet. If you compare that to human height, for those of you who have looked at gut length in fish relative to size, and I'm thinking of Daniel up there, could you comment on what that says about humans?
I could. It wouldn't be a very educated comment. Would you like me to say something confidently with zero, actual research to back it up? Because I know nothing about humans. I just know about fish and, maybe mussels. If you have a question about abalone, perhaps. But, next year I'm TAing a nutrition class. Maybe you can ask again then. I guess, though, I could try and come up with something. I guess what it is, it's, the humans developed in a way to break down their food and absorb as much nutrients as possible. And the reasons humans are, at least so they think we are evolved the way we are, is because we're able to absorb more from our food, especially with cooking. And that's how we got quote unquote smart. But I couldn't tell you. I would just be making things up. So I apologize for that. So you can see, PhD program, you do not suddenly know more. I'd like to think I am living proof of that. I get TA questions, and I'm like, open page 27 of your textbook, and listed here is the answer. So anyone else know anything about gut length? Would they like to? Nefertiti's got this.
No. I'm also in the same lab of Daniel, and I do not know the answer to that question, so...
We have some students here. Sometimes they're kind of shy. I just want to say you guys are so awesome, and nerds get a bad rep. So can you guys, I heard a couple of you say, I don't want to nerd out. Please nerd out and tell these students. My son used to want to be in marine biology, and he changed his major, and I wish he was here. It's like, look what you missed. Oh, my God. So just nerd out a little bit more and just tell them how much fun it is to research and do things like this, and, just to give them some more encouragement to go to college or junior college or whatever, and whatever your passion is. And if someone thinks you're a nerd, flip that around. I'm a nerd, and we love nerds rule. So nerd out a little bit for us.
Yeah, can I go first? Yeah. I think that I love being a nerd because I don't think it's like your one thing. Nobody's ever one thing. So like you can be a nerd and you can be cool. I don't think those things are like mutually exclusive. I don't know if I'm cool, but I like to think I'm cool. I know I'm a nerd though. But I think that like it's definitely not a negative thing. It is really fun. Like if you have a passion, like if you like asking questions and you like to know the reason why, research is the place to be. Like you could literally research anything. I often think about like researching like the smallest stuff, like which straw would work better, like because that's just how my brain works. I'm like, why this straw? Interesting. Like let's go into detail. So I think if you like think like that, like there's a place for you in research. And like the research that I did over the summer, like I said, I felt like I had no idea what I was doing, and my mentor was like, okay, like I thought I was gonna be helping him with his research, and he was like, no, go ahead and like work on a side project on your own. And I was like, absolutely, I would do that if I knew what I was doing. And he kind of just like gave it to me and like worked with me. And then everybody in the lab was like really supportive of like helping us build all the stuff that we needed for my experiment. But I just learned that it's just about like taking those steps, and everything comes in steps. I thought about like, I look at people and I'm like, oh, that's where I want to be. Like that's where I want to become eventually. Like they probably got there so easily. But then I look back at like where I am, like last fall to now, and I have like my diver certification. I'm taking these steps. I'm almost to my side diving, and I'm like, this is how it happens. It's just the steps. It's literally just the small steps. Like that's how that person got there, but you don't see all those steps. You just see them established in their career. That's who they are. But you didn't see, them in college. And so I think about that a lot. I'm like, oh, it just takes these small steps, and then that's how they got there. Like that's how I'm gonna get there as well. But yeah, it's definitely okay to be a nerd.
I just want to say that you are really cool, and I look up to you. Yes. I wanted to say that on the art side of things, I love painting, but I also love painting clothes that I like previously owned. I'm just like, oh, this needs like a little flair to it, so I can wear it more and love it more. So what I love to do is I love to like paint marine organisms onto my clothes, and that's how I nerd out. I just wear it out in public, and I feel so confident and feel so like myself, and that's how I like present to the world. So yes, nerd out loud, honestly. Oh, and I also wanted to say this: once you're like when you love something and the moment you find someone else who also loves like the same kind of field as you do, it's such a rewarding experience because then you just share this like synergy. You're just like, yes, we can nerd out together, and it's such a joyful moment. It's like when you like listen to like a music group and you find someone else who knows the same artist. It's the same feeling. So yes, nerd out loud.
I'll add one last thing about being a nerd is that it's really fun because I feel like with being a nerd, you get to see a lot of stuff that no one else gets to see. Like, I remember one time I was at work and I was looking for this like experimental plot I had put out on like a rocky shore, and I couldn't find it, and it smelled so bad while I was working, and I was like, why does it smell so bad? I can't find this. I'm so distracted. Like, what's going on? And then I realized that the reason I couldn't find my plot is because it's being covered by like a giant pile of seal poop. So I don't know how many people have seen seal poop. It's disgusting, but I'm really proud of the fact that I've seen it, and I feel like because of all like the nerdy passions that I like developed as I was going through school, like I get to see all this really cool stuff that like not a lot of people get to see. So I don't know, nerds see more, which.
That's right.
I love that nerd question. I think everybody is a nerd about something. You need to find your nerd, and you need to find your people who are nerds with you. So I love that. I think we have a question right here.
So my question goes to anyone. Basically, in high school, like not being good at science or like not feeling like science is your thing, how did you adapt to like taking science classes in college?
Tutors. Yeah, like, also, I feel like people don't want to share that they don't understand things. So, like, if you just turn to your classmate, like, I'm not saying that your classmate doesn't understand, but, like, they probably won't understand, and you guys can study together. So just don't be afraid to ask questions because, you know, when teachers are teaching, they know everything. And so they're not going to stop unless you ask them, can you slow down? Or I don't get this, or can you explain it a different way? So like it's their job to like teach you or like at least explain concepts. So like keep on asking them until you get it. But also tutors are a really good way as well. And like in college, there's this thing called office hours. And teachers really like when you go to office hours. They feel so great. I don't know why, but they love when students do that. And not that like grading is not objective, but if you are on the cusp and you have gone to office hours, they might help you out. So.
Yeah, I would just also like to add to not be afraid to change your study patterns because like I said, high school is so much easier than college. Like my first class that I took in college when I transferred at the junior college was like a biology class, and it was just knowing random facts. So like I'm much more of like a computing person. Like I like to do 2 + 2 is 4 and just memorize a formula, and then all I have to do is memorize formulas, work with units, and get answers, right? But when you go into science, especially like marine science, and you just have to know organisms, you have to do a lot of like memorization. So I would just say like don't be scared to change your study patterns and to understand that like it's very much possible. Like I think we get so caught up in everything that we have to know, and we get like intimidated, but there are people who've done it, so you can do it. You know what I mean? Like it is possible, it just takes a little bit of hard work. So just changing that mentality to not thinking that it's gonna come as easy as before. And also college kind of unlocks your critical thinking brain more than high school does. So teachers are always trying to get you to think critically. So that's harder to understand when you haven't encountered it before, but you will encounter it in college. So just like be prepared for that, to think more critically than like just getting a straight answer. You have to think about how these things relate and how the relation affects the outcome and things like that. So that's what I would say. Just be prepared for that. You can't really like know what it is until you're there, but like kind of prepare for that, knowing that it's going to be different.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that, as well as when you are asking questions, like I know people don't like to ask questions because they're like, oh, like if I ask this, like, is this a dumb question? Like, does everyone else get it and I'm the only one? But I think the more that you do ask questions, the more you find that, like, everyone else in the class is kind of in the same boat as you. And it gives permission to other people to ask questions that you may not have thought of. And it also slows down the professor. So, like, if no one is asking questions, they're just going to keep going. So I found that, like, even when it is uncomfortable, like, just ask the question anyways, and then at least you get, like, more clarity, and then other people will begin to ask questions as well. And then also, another way to change, like, your study patterns is to get into study groups. So, like, there's always people that have a different understanding of the material than you do, and you might have more of an understanding in one place versus them. So, like, it helps to bounce ideas off of each other and, like, questions off of each other and, like, grow your learning in that way.
All right, so this question is for everyone. I've seen like a theme that's been going on. Like Daniel, he said that he had a mentor that was African American, and you don't see a lot of us in the field. And then I see Nicole, she goes to Minnesota, and I mean, who knows how many of us is out there? You know what I mean? And so like being in like doctorate programs, bachelor programs, and environments where there's not a lot of African Americans there. I wanted you guys to talk a little bit about like what type of support systems did you guys have? Because you know there's not a lot of us there. Like how was that experience, and how are you guys able to move through graduate school, bachelor's program, even a PhD program? We're not seeing a lot of us there.
I guess I'll start by answering this. I guess for me, it's you're kind of on your own for a lot of it, especially for me. I didn't mention, but I was first gen. And there will be like programs, obviously, for African American students. But, when I went to UCI, I saw like 3 black students a year. There was not really a lot of community there when I started. And yeah, it makes it rough because like when you're seeing no one else in your field who looks like you, has your experiences, it feels, isolating. I remember when I first met an African American, Dr. Tyrone Hayes was his name, and I remember I walked up and said, you don't know how much it means to me to meet a doctor named Tyrone, and I hope he understood what I meant by that statement. But he was just, and he was so unapologetically him, and I wish I had some great answer. There will be programs for different African American students, but depending on where you go, you're not going to find that. And so what I would suggest is following your passions is great, finding what you're interested in is great, but unfortunately, if the people there aren't the right people for you, you might not make it through because it is hard. You can't do this alone. It's impossible. You have to find the right community. You have to find the people who will support you, people who care about you, or else it'll chew you up and spit you out. So I think finding, people who understand what your life experience is like has been the most important thing for me. I think that's the only reason I've made it through. And so I would say that's where you will have to look for that. You're gonna have to. I wish I had like something better to say. Oh, this is where you can suddenly find all the the secret cache of black scientists. But you're just gonna have to look out for yourself, find those friends, find those people, and you have to advocate for yourself. I wish I had something better to say than that, but maybe someone else if they talk about what they've done. Yeah.
Okay, so quite honestly, this last year was the first time that I saw other black students in any of my classes. I felt like a unicorn for a while, which that might be your journey if you choose this path. But there's nothing wrong with that. You can always find community outside of your classrooms. You may not have your black students in your classroom, but at least on my campus, there's like a black student center, so I can go there and at least find community. And it kind of dulls the uneasiness you'll feel being in those spaces. But use these classrooms like anybody else would. Ask your questions, get what you need from these experiences. Quite honestly, join organizations. If there's okay, I'm D9, so if you're able to join a D9 organization and find community that way, you'll be surprised how many people are in STEM, in biology, and chem that are in those organizations. But you may not always find Black people, so find community and people who just have the same interests. Quite honestly, I have so many mentors who have no similar backgrounds, but we mesh at our nerd level. So we can talk about plants all day, or we can talk about ocean creatures all day. Like, that's how you'll have to compensate in some of these situations. And it's not a bad thing. It's just more of an adaptation skill.
Yeah. I was just gonna add, because I did, like I mentioned before, I did swim for 12 years, and swim is not a Black sport. It really just dates back forever, but it's just not typically, you don't see a lot of Black people there. So a lot of times I was the only Black person on my team at a meet, and one of my coaches actually at one meet, she came from China, and she was like our assistant coach for a while. And after one meet, she was like, "Darren, you were the only colored person there." I was like, "Yeah, that's typical." I didn't really find an issue with it. So I think I was used to going into something that is a rarity for us, like STEM. I think I wasn't kind of expecting there to be a lot of Black people. I would really like to meet a Black professor or have a Black professor in my field of interest. I just haven't gotten to that point yet. But I think, like they were saying, just important to find it outside of class. And also you can match, like she was saying, on nerd levels with people in your class as well, and still feel supported in some way. But it is important to reach out to find people that look like you so that you can be supported in that way as well. It's like you get what you need from these different places. So even if it's not all going to be in one place. That's going to be really hard to find. I mean, here it's in one place, which is nice. That's why this cohort and this program is really, really nice, because you feel you kind of have a lot of bases covered, being colored and in STEM and nerding out and all these different things. So it's really nice to have this, which is unusual. You won't find that back at your individual programs. So you kind of have to search for it where you can find it. It's not all going to be in one place.
Yeah, I'd say going to Minnesota, another thing besides the cold that my parents asked me about to make sure that I actually wanted to go was that, it's if you don't know where Minnesota is, because I didn't, it's in the Midwest, so and there's not a lot of people of color in the Midwest. That's just how it is. Probably don't like the cold as part of it. And so that was one thing that they asked me, there's not going to be a lot of Black people there, there's not going to be that community. And like Darren said, I was kind of used to it my high school was predominantly white as well, so I thought that I would be fine, which, I was, but nearing my second year, I was that's one of the reasons I decided to transfer, was that I wanted more of a community. There was a cultural club on campus, but doing soccer, I didn't really have a lot of time to reach out and do other clubs, and so Cal Poly Pomona is actually a predominantly Hispanic institution, so that was another reason I wanted to transfer there, was that at least it was more diverse. And I see so many, I think about it on the daily, I see so many more Black people every day than I probably ever did the 2 years that I was in Minnesota. So I would definitely say when you're choosing where you want to go, that's a big thing. Look at the demographic and see is this somewhere that I can thrive? Is this somewhere that has clubs that I can be a part of? Because the people that are around you do really shape your experiences and how successful you're going to be in your environment.
Okay, I'm bad with my words, but how can I phrase this? So in your guys' field, whether it's in school or on the job, what's one thing that you guys would like to voice out that you guys feel lacks resources? What resources are you guys lacking?
I have this in my hand. Well, I guess at different levels, there's different things. I guess since, talking to an audience with high school students, when you first start college, you're going to be like, what classes am I supposed to take? How do I figure out what I want to do? I think some schools are better at, connecting to their students and helping them figure out what paths they want to take. And then what you're supposed to do to reach that path. I think that's where I think a lot of the difficulty lied for me for a long time. Okay, I had at least sort of an idea of what I wanted to do, but I had no idea what I was supposed to do to get there. And so, going to counselors that's a mixed bag. Sometimes you'll find a counselor that'll give you all the, oh, this is what you need to take. Oh, if you're interested in this, you should do that. I think that's where I think students need a lot of help. It's just figuring out, I don't know what I want to do. What should I do for now? Or I do know what I want to do. How do I get there? I think that's one of the places where students need the most help. And honestly, I would say that applies to even at graduate level. I would say that's still been the case, figuring out, okay, I'm finishing this degree. Now, how do I go about getting a job? Some schools will have career centers that'll help you, but sometimes that can be kind of generic job application help, which is actually quite helpful. But still figuring out, where do I go to figure out, where do I find these experiences? Where do I get these jobs? I think that's where some resources need to be put into to help guide students to get to wherever it is they want to go. That's one of the things I'd like to see more of.
I'm gonna deadpan money. I work at a marine station. It's part of UC Davis, but it's like 2.5 hours from the main campus. And one of the things we really like to see, and I think would be a really formative experience for a lot of students, would be like getting students out there to work or like walk around the marine lab. But like if you're coming out there from Davis, that's a whole day that someone could be working or taking classes or doing other things. So like making sure that having hands-on experiences is financially viable for people, I think would be really helpful for getting people to like, I don't know, uplift them and move them and help them realize that like science isn't just a giant organic chemistry class or something.
One thing I would like to see is that when it comes to science, you just think, oh, somebody's in a lab coat doing lab work all day. I would like to see like more representation of like how science could be accessible. Like to be a scientist, it's not just doing chemistry. Chemistry is amazing, and I want to see more of like, what does chemistry look like? What does it look like when you have lab animals? What does it look like when you're out in the field? And for those who are like disabled, like you can, science is not just going into the rugged terrain in the middle of the night. I would like to see like more of what science actually looks like and what more fields, because I didn't think marine biology was a thing I could do until like high school. So I think seeing more of that would be an awesome resource for people. As well as a resource I had in UC Davis was that we had the CAN network, which is the Community Advising Network, which is just a network of counselors who work with student resource centers. And these were counselors who were trained about different cultures. They were actually people of color working with student resource centers, and I was like, yes, I have a Black therapist. And I was just like, this is gold. This is like, I was like crying the first appointment. I just couldn't believe it. It was really like a liberating experience to realize like, yes, you can, like these resources I wish people had. I wish there was more of that. So yes, hire more therapists of diverse backgrounds, especially for undergrads, because we're going through a lot. Like we all said, the transition is so hard at first. Yeah.
Yeah. To piggyback off what Daniel said, don't always trust your counselors, because counselors, just make sure that you're like with your counselor when they're explaining it to you, they're explaining your classes, you understand your classes, and you can also like reroute if you need to. And just also ask your counselor questions, because sometimes they don't always like, they'll forget something. I don't really know, but my counselor was not the greatest. So just don't always like rely fully on your counselor. Make sure you're also on top of like knowing what classes you need to take and things like that, which I guess is a lack of resource. And then for what Jackie said, I think, there's Jackie. Yeah, I'm answering your question. I think where the resources are lacking are at a young age in high school. I think that's mostly where the resources are lacking for, like I was talking about in my talk, just research specifically and marine science. Like for places where I grew up, and like I know places like small cities around me, we don't hear about the ocean like that. So I think that the resources are lacking more early on than they are like later when you're in your field.
Yeah, I think that there are resources out there and that they're just, a lot of them are just very small and they don't have the reach that we wish they did. So like it's very difficult to find the resources, especially like specifically on your own campus. Like that's why being involved in organizations and clubs and like being connected with different people is really helpful, because a lot of the ways that I've learned about different things on campus is through my peers. Like I had no clue that we had like all these cultural centers until I talked to someone who went to an event the other night. So it's really like if you need something, like you have to go out and look for it yourself, which kind of sucks because like you already have so much on your plate. But yeah, you really have to put your own, like, just like you have to put your education first and your health first, like you really have to advocate for yourself and like go out and look for the resources. And in saying that, like everyone else said, there is a lack of resources, but the resources that we do have, like you just really have to go out and look for them.
All right. Keep that round of applause going. We're going to give them one last round of applause. Thank you so much. At this point, I'm going to invite everyone to adjourn for a quick break. We're going to do about 15-minute break. For those watching remotely, we will be back at about 10:45 for our guest panelists. We'll be presenting. For everyone in person, you are welcome to head back to our Ocean Science Center, continue the conversations, mingling. Thank you so much for sharing so much of yourself this morning. This was incredible. All right. We'll be back in about 15 minutes. of you watching remotely, and welcome back to everyone who is here with us in person. Earlier this morning, we had an opportunity to hear from members of our 2022 African American Scholar cohort about their journeys, their stories. I think I speak for everyone when I say it was amazing. We were inspired, encouraged. And one of the things I think is so important is that while our scholars are studying marine science, many of them mentioned research. You might agree with me that there were messages that were relevant to any area of study that you might take on. We talked about passion, we talked about being a nerd, we talked about finding your people, we talked about asking questions, we talked about finding community. And we're going to continue some of those themes with our guest speakers this afternoon. The design of our symposium is intentional in that it has folks at different levels. We have high school students, we have undergrads, we have students getting their masters, we have PhD students, and we have professionals in their field. We now get to hear from the professionals. And what I'm excited about with this panel is while they do not all have a background specifically in marine science, they are all connected to the work of the aquarium. They are all part of what we are trying to do collectively to connect with our community and to inspire. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce someone at a time. They'll have an opportunity to present themselves, and just as we did earlier, we'll at the end have them come up and have a Q&A. So our first speaker is Max Bracey. Max is the founder and president of Diversify, a nonprofit working to bring the world of environmental awareness and ocean appreciation to a more diverse audience through access to free swim and scuba lessons. After becoming a scuba instructor in 2016, he noticed the lack of Black students learning to dive. Through his experiences scuba diving, he gained a more robust appreciation for the natural world, the ocean, and the need for conservation action. He started Diversify with the goal of providing similar experiences for other people of color. Over the last 4 years, Max worked as the head of marketing and communications for the recycling company Pre-Zero US. He holds a Bachelor of Business Administration from University of Wisconsin-Madison School of Business. Please join me in welcoming Max Bracey.
Okay. All right, thanks for having me. I know it's going to be a tough act to follow with these scholars up here, but I will attempt it. So definitely honored to be here talking about Diversify and also myself and my experience, how I got to where I am. Starting off, I was lucky enough to grow up in Santa Monica. I went to Santa Monica High and had that access to the ocean very close, and thought I wanted to go into marine science when I was in high school. Somehow I ended up at Wisconsin, and as you can imagine, not so much water out there to study, so I ended up doing marketing, but still had a good time and enjoyed it there. And through the marketing degree, went on to work in entertainment, as a lot of people living in LA do, I suppose. And so worked at FX Network in their marketing department doing on-air promotions. Was good. You can watch a lot of TV working in television, turns out, but my brain was feeling fried after a couple years there, 4 years there, and I ended up deciding to leave and take a trip. And so my trip was supposed to be 1 year. I went out to get my scuba instructor license, ended up being 2 years, and so I went to Utila, Honduras, the Cook Islands, Hawaii, Bali, a few other places. But it was really transformative for me, and a big part of that was the marine pollution that I would see in the ocean. And so there would be dives when I would be leading or just with a group, and we would just all of a sudden come into a water column that was filled with plastic, and we would start to try to pull as much as we could out of the water, but not even make a dent. And so this experience really allowed me to have an environmental awakening to the issue that humans are creating. And so I came back and figured that if I was going to get back into the corporate world and get a real job, quote unquote, it's going to have to be doing something that was environmentally focused and helping to mitigate this problem that I had seen firsthand. And so I started working at this company, Pre-Zero, and leading the marketing communications team there, and was still teaching diving part-time on the weekends, and still do. But that led me to realize after 2 years, my first 2 years scuba instructing, I had only taken 2 black people diving that whole time. And so I'd seen firsthand the joy that the ocean brought the students that I would have, but I wanted to see more people like myself out there. And so in 2020, I started Diversify, and with that goal in mind. And so that's where we are today. And so you'll see a little bit more about that. So this is our mission: underwater experiences and environmental enlightenment for underrepresented youth. And this is our vision. So it's a lofty goal, but we do what we can. And so for me, it was the ocean. When I didn't see the problem, it was out of sight, out of mind. And so I want to be able to bring more people into it. Until I saw it, I didn't care as much. And so if I could do that through this program, then I think it'll be a good thing. And so that is why I teach, and really we're trying to drive a diverse advocacy for conservation and also enrich the lives of the students that we are serving. And here's a video just so I'm not just here talking, but you can actually see what we do.
That's better, it's closer. Nice. Okay, good? Yeah.
So this is our class, and this info will be up in a second, but that was our summer 2021 inaugural class, and we've had 2 classes since. We did 2 classes this year, and we'll be starting up again starting next spring. So this is what the course entails: is online work first, that you do by yourself, 15 hours, give or take, and then we do a half day in the classroom to go over what you learned on your online learning. We do a conservation talk to bring that conservation element into it, or conservation discussion, sorry. And we do gear setup, gear fitting, all of that, and then we do a full day of pool training, like I said, in Santa Monica, and then we do 2 days out at Catalina. So these are just some of the benefits that we provide to the students. And so we do the certifications, those are held for life. You never lose those. So if you're not in the water for a couple of years, then we would ask that, or you actually do a refresher course, so you're not just jumping in there without being refreshed on your skills, but they do last for life. We also offer a swim lesson. So we have built this into our model. Swimming is just an essential life skill that we want to be able to provide to everybody. And so if you're not as comfortable in the water just yet, then we would be able to offer, set you up with swim lessons so you can get there. And even if you didn't participate in our program going forward, we still think that's beneficial. And then community centered around conservation, that's a big part of it, like I said, and opening the door to alternative career paths, whether that be in diving. If you get a diving instructor certification, then you can really go and live and work almost anywhere you would want to be. And so I think that's pretty valuable, but also just connecting with professionals in marine science and trying to make those connections for people of color, and college level credit, which it would be interesting to everybody here, I suppose. And so with your open water certification, you can get one of those. Just some photos of our conservation efforts and what we do. So we have this discussion through this program, Patty Aware, which serves to educate people about what we can do as divers and non-divers to help our ocean environment and our environment in general, because our lives and our well-being here on planet Earth is predicated on a healthy ocean. And then cleanup dives, we do all of that. And so this is our annual harbor cleanup at Catalina Island. We find some really interesting stuff like scary doll here. So this won the creepiest prize, creepiest find prize for sure. And then the coastal cleanup. This happens the third Saturday in September every year, and we did it out at Catalina Island through Eco Dive Center ran it, but you can find computers, bikes. People throw those electronic scooters into the ocean, unfortunately, so those get pulled up, skateboards, Apple Watches, phones. And if you're lucky, you can find maybe some cash. Roshini found $5 out there, so that was cool. All right, and this is just what's up next for us. We're doing our end of year fundraising. Our 2023 classes are going to start in March, and so the applications are open and rolling for right now. So if you're interested, then you can do so. You can look at our information. And then cleanup dives. Cleanup dives are still something we're doing. So just some parting thoughts, like professionally and academically, as you kind of go through your time there. I think things that have helped me, don't be afraid of failure. So you can always talk yourself out of something, or somebody can talk yourself out of it, but just because something might not work doesn't mean that you shouldn't try to do it. And make time for travel. This is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and I never would have started this program, Diversify, had I not gone on the trip and had that environmental awakening I was talking about. So that, and I never would have started working for an environmental company like PreZero and trying to adapt my expertise in marketing and everything going forward into something else. And so, we can all bring our expertise into helping the ocean environment. And yeah, speaking to that, I do have a trip upcoming, going to South America for a few months starting next week. So So that's exciting as well. And obviously travel's expensive, or, can be, but just a little bit more on that. I firmly believe that, once you get to a place, it can be much cheaper than the U.S. And so I think it's still valuable. And in the U.S., we also have this society that kind of pushes us to go to school, work, and then retire, and then you will be able to go out and travel. But when you're old, and maybe you're not going to be able to do as many things as you could do otherwise. And so I think it's really important to get that different perspective to be able to do that. And also just making extra effort to build relationships with the people that you work with. So unfortunately, you're probably going to see the people you work with more than your friends and your family. And so it's important to make that effort, even if maybe you don't want to. It just will help you. And then building career capital. So this comes from a book that I recently read from Cal Newport. And so this just revolves around the idea of building your knowledge and expertise in your field to the point where you're providing value. So asking, what value can I provide to my field as opposed to what value can my career provide me? And I think that'll go a long way. So be relentless in building your career capital. And fight the urge to stay in your comfort zone. I think that was a really good point that on the previous panel, everybody that was brought up. But don't be afraid to ask questions. So yes, the comfort zone is comfortable. However, no growth happens there. So just try to push the envelope. And then make being a team player your default. So sometimes you may be asked to do things that are outside of your job description. However, you should, if you can, I would say always try to do them. And lastly, but I think the most important, is appreciating your journey. So your path is what creates who you are. And and I think it's very important to be present in what you do and be present for every step of the journey, and not getting so hung up on what you believe to be your end destination, because it all fits together. And so I truly believe that your unique journey is what creates the unique perspective that you bring to your professional and personal life. And that is what I've got for you. So yeah, you can take a photo. We're on social media, so you can check us out. Thanks.
Thanks, Max. Max, do you want your phone? All right. Our next speaker is Dr. Dejana Figueroa. I'm just so excited she's here. She's like a rock star. I had to shorten her bio to read this out loud because there are so many amazing things that Dr. Figueroa has done. Dejana is a marine scientist and educator who works extensively to make STEAM education more accessible. She is currently Chief Academic Officer for Black Girls Dive Foundation, as well as Innovation and Design Chair and Science Teacher at Chadwick School. She is the former Global Director of the Muse School National Geographic Society Green STEAM Program, and serves as Science Communications Fellow with Ocean Exploration Trust, where she connects the wonders of ocean exploration from the RV Nautilus to classrooms worldwide. She holds a BS in Marine Biology from UCLA and a PhD in Marine Science from UC Santa Barbara.
Well, good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing? I am so honored and excited to be here. So the first thing I wanted to do is just come up and express gratitude. Gratitude for this space, gratitude for your time, and gratitude for planet Earth, right? We are all here together to celebrate each other. And I thought today the best thing that I could do was to share with you a little bit about my journey, kind of like the panelist ahead of me. So you're going to get to know a little bit more about me. And I'm hoping that as I share this journey and this path and some of the cool things I've been able to do, that at the end, every single one of you in this room right now feels like your story is also a part of Earth's story. So that's kind of where I want to go. All right, so we're going to start off with a long list of things. It was so much, I'm like, oh, I just kind of want to just lay it all out there, and then I'm going to go from there. So yeah, I was a curious kid. I like to do a lot of school. So I have lots of degrees because I loved to learn. Like learning, hashtag lifetime learning was a thing. So yes, I went to UCLA, I went to UC Santa Barbara, but in the end, I just wanted to learn in every single space that I was in. Currently, I am a STEAM educator. I teach science in high school. I also teach kindergarten science. And I also serve on a variety of different nonprofit organizations that increase accessibility and belonging in STEM fields. Those include organizations like Black Girls Die Foundation, the Bridge Builders Foundation, the Empower Her Institute. All of these organizations are working really, really hard to open up the world of science, technology, engineering, art, and math to all peoples. So that's kind of where I land in my life journey today. I spend a lot of my energy and my time making sure that other people can have amazing journeys just like I had. Fun things, I like to write children's books. I like to make things, and my favorite activity ever is just joyful laughter. So I like to start off with my journey. This is an ode to my mom, who is an artist. I am the daughter of an artist. She still doesn't know how she ended up with a scientist, but anyhow. This is a painting that is in my home, my family home. And my parents often tell me that this painting is there because it reminds them of me. As a little girl, I was completely fascinated and terrified of the ocean, like legit terrified, but kept asking to go back. My parents would take me, and I always had the same questions. Why is it blue? Why is the ocean wet? Why are things wet? Why is this rock squishy? Well, I learned later it was a sea anemone and not a rock. Why does this, constant questions. How far does it go? Do dolphins actually come out on land at night? I just was constantly curious about the ocean. So much so that a lot of the art in my parents' house is all inspired by me asking them questions and constantly wanting to go to the sea. So my story starts legit. It just starts with being a little girl full of curiosity. So I love using definitions to remind us that science isn't super special, it's human, we're curious about things and we want to know how things work. So my story starts with curiosity, a strong, compelling desire to know or learn something. And little humans, that's how they show up in the world. They have a strong, compelling desire to understand things. I'm learning this with my newborn nephew. It's just really kind of cool to see it happen and play out in different places. So all of our journeys kind of start here, and that's where mine started. And I was curious about planet Earth, specifically the ocean. The ocean, the atmosphere, all the people here, all the animals here, all the life here. I was really curious about Earth. And I was so curious about Earth, I wanted to know about the things I couldn't see. So I could see things in my neighborhood and in my backyard and in my field trip. But when I went to the ocean, I thought about all the things that were happening on planet Earth that I just couldn't see. And my parents, who I thought at age 8 knew everything, they kind of didn't know what to say to some of my questions. So my curiosity led me to really want to be an explorer and know more about planet Earth. And so my journey, I went to college. There's a whole story in there. School wasn't easy. I did not excel in everything. But by the time I was a junior in high school, I learned how to do my school very well. Not that I learned anything at all at high school, but I learned how to give my teachers exactly what they wanted. So I succeeded well and was able to go to a good university right off. But there's a whole story behind that. We'll get to that later. I did not learn how to do critical thinking. So my curiosity kind of led me to a really strange place. So I thought I was going to study dolphins. I thought marine biology was training dolphins at SeaWorld for the longest time. But my curiosity led me to a place even further. And I want to share with you where I ended up. My curiosity journey took me through this video clip. So you can go ahead and play that clip. Okay, it's gonna be a little slow because it's going through. There we go. All right, so planet Earth. I found myself on planet Earth, and I found myself asking questions about things that were really, really far from land, the middle of the ocean, on a research vessel, into submarines, down to the deep. Down 3,000 meters to these cracks in the ocean where new oceanic crust is formed. So deep where seawater actually seeps down, comes into close contact with the asthenosphere, is chemically changed and comes shooting back up into the water column, creating these locations that are called hydrothermal vents. It's so dark, it's like hard to see down there. There's no light. The hydrothermal vent environments were really crazy place for me to find myself because my curiosity journey kind of wanted to like, well, how extreme can life be? So down here, I found that there is life in the depths of the ocean, and it can survive, and it can survive and thrive under increasing amounts of pressure, crazy chemistry, and temperatures that go beyond boiling to freezing in a matter of time scale of sometimes minutes. So my curiosity journey led me there. And the next thing I want to leave you with is the journey's not only curiosity, it's also, you can go to the next slide for me. It's also a lot of courage. So courage is the ability to do something that you know is difficult or dangerous. So when I learned out of my curiosity that there were organisms thriving in these crazy, crazy places down at the bottom of the ocean, the first thing I did is I wanted to go there. But I was terrified of the ocean. That's a problem, right? Maybe. I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to keep animals alive that were from the bottom of the ocean. I had to have a lot of courage. So I want to share with you that my journey was not free of fear. My journey was not free of like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do next? I had to demonstrate courage. So through courage, I was able to do the next steps. Like, oh, this cool stuff's there. I'm curious about it. We can do the next steps. And through curiosity and courage, that gave me the opportunity to become a deep sea researcher, where I've spent over 4 years of my life exploring, understanding, researching, and asking questions about the deep sea and organisms and life that live in some of the most extreme environments on Earth. This particular research vessel, this is the communication one, is the Nautilus. I had the opportunity to go all over the world, all the different oceans, to dive in submarines to depths of beyond 3,000 meters and go to places where very few humans have ever seen with their own eyes. Yes, I got there. The next challenging part was, well, how do you study and design a research experiment or anything where you can actually study these organisms that live so far off, so deep, and in situations that we really don't even know how to simulate? Next slide. Let me show you. Go ahead and play that video. You take a submarine.
Rover 1, this is Rover 2. We are at the edge of the ball and are beginning our descent. Over. My name's Dejana Figueroa, and I'm a PhD student at UC Santa Barbara. This is cool.
Copy that. Starting descent. Over.
I think I have one of the coolest jobs in the world.
Check out those corkscrew coral down there.
I'm a marine biologist. I get to go to the bottom of the ocean and study the amazing organisms that live there. There's nothing I'd rather be doing.
This wall's pretty amazing. We're barely on the edge of photosynthesis right here. The ambient light's really going now.
You're totally reliant on the technology that's in your little bubble to dive to that depth where it's just a mystery down there. You never know what you're going to see.
Look at all that krill.
Oh my gosh! Looks like we're in krill heaven over here, Rover 1.
Yeah, roger that. Pretty incredible.
Not seeing much of anything alive here, Dejana. What about you?
Not much life at all. I think we're pretty much out of the floating zone.
It's like being on the moon, huh?
Copy that. With no light from the surface, not much can survive down here. But there are places in the ocean where sunlight has never reached, not since the world began, and yet amazing life forms thrive there. So when I was invited to join the new expedition to explore these places, I had to say yes.
I love sharing that clip. Takes me back to the time. So I was terrified, but I said yes, right? So that's that courage piece. I was terrified, but I said yes. And there begun 10 years of ocean exploration, looking at deep sea hydrothermal vent environments, which is pretty cool. But then again, I had to do some research. Like, I can't just go there and have fun, but I kind of was going there and having fun, but I had to kind of develop some strategies so that I can come back and actually answer some of the questions that I had there. Like, how do they survive? What are their limits and all this stuff? So that's when I land on, started with curiosity. I had to have some courage. And then I had to develop my creativity and critical thinking skills. You see, creativity is needed to generate new ideas, to solve problems, and critical thinking evaluates and improves ideas. So we had a problem. Nobody had ever brought these animals alive to study their physiology. They live at 4,000 pounds of pressure per square inch, and they died. So I had to come up with some creative solutions to design and develop a technique, a strategy, an equipment, a system, so that we can actually do work on these organisms. I was a marine biology student. I had never done any engineering or physics before in my life, but I learned, hey, I have to work with some engineers in order to design some specialized equipment in order to answer the questions that I had. So the questions were all around these animals. This right here shows you some of the organisms I was able to study, including the giant tubeworm Riftia and the deep sea hydrothermal vent mussel Bathymodiolus. Nobody had really looked at their thermal physiology before and how they were able to cope with some of the challenging environments associated with pressure, temperature, and chemistry. So even though, like, literally, I just was really curious, I wanted to answer the question, I didn't know how to build things, I don't know, through a lot of hard work and dedication, in addition to diving in the submarine to collect, learning how to dive in subs to collect them, I learned how to work with engineers to develop specialized aquarium systems so that we can keep these animals alive in the lab. We hold a record for keeping animals that live at pressure alive in the lab for over a year, where I was able to do these studies and determine their thermal tolerances and characterize novel proteins like how they utilize the HSP70, which is a molecular chaperone, a protein that gets expressed when an organism is experiencing stress, and it helps keep that organism together, their other proteins together, until more favorable conditions. I was able to define and document this mechanism in the deep sea hydrothermal vent environments by being curious, being courageous, and coming up with creative problem solving to work with engineers to develop a new system to study this stuff. It was really, really cool. And check this out. Other people thought it was really, really cool too. And that leads me to the communication piece. So as a trained researcher, I learned how to communicate through a process that's called peer review. It sucks, but still, it is a process where you learn some really interesting things, answer some really interesting questions, develop more questions, and you write about it in a very formalized way, send it to a journal, a bunch of people review it, they come back and tell you it's horrible, you make it better, and then they publish it. It's this really cool process that happens in scholarly circles to make sure that we're sharing information. But it occurred to me that the wonders of the deep sea shouldn't only be shared with this collective group of scholars that are talking about this. And it occurred to me that this information needed to be more broadly shared. So my journey that started with curiosity, yay, courage, oh my gosh, I'm gonna jump into the ocean. Critical and creative thinking, I have to kind of come up with some creative solutions in order to answer this question, kind of led me on this communication path, like what's the best way to communicate this information and who gets to be the barrier or the bridge on the information that we're coming up with. And so my journey from research kind of took a different path. Instead of communicating my work and my discoveries and all the ocean exploration I was doing through a peer-reviewed process, I decided that I was going to spend my efforts and communicate to broader audiences in whatever way and whatever means possible. And that's where we get to things like working with film industry professionals like James Cameron. Hello, everybody seeing Avatar coming up? Yeah, those aliens were inspired by the aliens of the deep by making films that highlight some of the ocean discoveries with movie industry professionals. If that meant communicating science by participating in a Nickelodeon kids show where we introduce the ocean to preschool and kindergartners, that's what I was gonna say yes to and make sure that I'm creating bridges and not barriers between information and the ocean between our young people. I also said yes to an MTV show to connect with the younger generation and to make ocean hip and amazing and make sure that we become ocean stewards and planet stewards. So my journey started with courage, curiosity, courage, critical thinking, but really where I've landed today is in that communication area. And that's kind of how I'm here communicating my story with all of you. I try and communicate in whatever way I can possibly, whether that's in a kindergarten classroom, whether that's in the field with a group of students who are interested in asking questions, or where it's just me joyfully interacting with young people that are curious about the things around them. That piece is super, super important to be, and so that's why I'm really honored to be here to kind of share my journey with you as how I am trained as a PhD researcher, and I spent 10 years in the research field asking questions, really hard questions, and working in really strange, difficult places. But at the end of the day, I just want to open up the ocean and planet Earth to all of us and make sure that there aren't any barriers. Let's create bridges, right? I can't do it by myself. That's another place that I landed. So great, yes, let's communicate, but let's also partner and work with others to achieve something special, to a special purpose that opens up this work to everyone. My partners include a variety of different places. I currently work at a school, so I partner with a local school, independent school. I also partner with Black Girls Dive Foundation, which is a national organization committed to increasing Black women and Black youth engagement in the ocean through the lens of diving. I collaborate with organizations like the Bridge Builders Foundation, where just recently we brought 40 students to Scripps Institute of Oceanography for a 2-week STEM experience. I can tell you from personal experience, I applied to go to Scripps Institute of Oceanography for my PhD, and I was the only Black person I saw my entire visit there. It's a big university, and now I'm creating programs to open up these places and tear down those walls. Another fun one is partnering with Ocean Exploration Trust, which is dedicated to opening up the ocean and exploring the unknown regions of our planet. I work there as an Ocean Communications Fellow, where we can live stream directly from the ship into classrooms, museums. We've even done Girl Scout groups, Boy Scout groups. Like, we can live stream and bring the ocean anywhere in the world, which is really, really cool, while we're doing our ocean exploration. So the collaboration piece is key. Again, curiosity, we all have it. Courage, push through. Critical thinking and creative problem solving, you got this. Communicate and collaborate. Boom, 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 boom. I want to inspire you all to do that. But the last piece, I kind of put this in here, 'cause oftentimes I use the other C. Can you tell that I like C's? Curiosity, courage, creative, communication, and collaborate. I like to put community in there. But today I decided not to put community in there. My story, I hope it instills a sense of wonder, but it couldn't happen with community, because through community, I felt like I belonged. And so I want you to know that belonging is super, super important, regardless of what you pursue. Each and every one of you belong in this space, belong in this room, belong on planet Earth, and belong in your own journey and on your own path. And as I went through my path, I was constantly confronted with situations, words, and people that made me feel like I did not belong. But I want you to know, while you're on your journey, those are lies. We all belong. and our paths are all different, and how we show up as people is all different, but we all belong. And so as a practice, as a researcher, whether I'm teaching, whether I'm an explorer or whatnot, I'm always trying to create a sense of belonging. You see, belonging describes values and practices where no person is left out of the circle of concern. Belonging means more than just having access. Hey, we are all here in the building, that's great. It means more than that. It means that we have a meaningful voice and an opportunity to actively participate. I shared my story today because I want you to know that you all belong and we all belong. And I'm hoping when I hear from you and your stories that all feel like I belong as well. Thank you for your time and attention. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh. Jana, I love a good alliteration. That was awesome. I'm going to add one more C to it because I think our next speaker's superpower is connection. So I'm going to add connection to it. Our next speaker is Mr. Derek Simpson. Derek Simpson is the president of the Earl B. and Lorraine H. Miller Foundation. Within his initial years of leadership, the Miller Foundation has continued to enhance its role as a funder and innovative community collaborator with local foundations, nonprofits, and businesses. Before joining the Miller Foundation in 2019, Mr. Simpson served for 13 years as the executive director of the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Throughout his career, Mr. Simpson has established a reputation as a community leader with diverse experiences that include business development, community development, youth programs, and entertainment. Mr. Simpson is a published author with 3 books, a podcast, and serves as a National Clifton Strengths facilitator. He also served as a member of the Recording Academy and was a voting member of the Grammy Awards from 2008 to 2014. Mr. Simpson is most proud to be a father of twins, grandfather of 5, and an alumnus of the University of Alabama.
Good morning, or is it afternoon? It's still morning. Good morning, everyone. Talk about tough acts to follow. That wasn't a good position for me to be in this morning. But I'm proud to be here with you because unlike my colleagues who've already spoken, I don't have a background in the ocean or in marine sciences, but I do have a love for the ocean. I grew up on the Gulf of Mexico in Mobile, Alabama. My dad said, if you ever hear that I drown, call the police because I don't go near the water. It had to be a homicide. Yeah. And the thing is, if you think about one of the major causes of death for young black males is drowning. That's a reality. And so therefore, I'm very passionate about being here, not only for what you're learning in terms of the Aquarium, but also because of my passion for youth and community. The books that you see up here, specifically the one in the middle, Climbing the Corporate Mountain, was written because I found that in my career paths, no matter what level that I was on, the faces changed, but the questions remained the same in terms of how do I get to that next level? And so I figured I would write a book that would just capture common sense because I work with a lot of educated fools in my life, people who had major degrees but didn't have a lot of common sense. So I'm talking real to you, both those of you who are in college right now and those who are in high school who are trying to figure out that next move. The last thing I thought I would be doing as a football player was writing poetries about love. In fact, I would have gotten run out of the locker room in college had I talked about, check out this poem on love I just wrote. And so when you talk courage, courage manifests itself in many different ways. And so I do encourage you to think about courage in making decisions, courage in standing alone in your own belief systems, even when it's not what others are doing and being cool about, right? And also courage in pursuing your dream, no matter what that dream may be and how different it is from those who are in your family, because often we trust those in our family because they're family, but they can be the most detrimental sometimes. because they think they know you, but they don't know the inside of you. They don't know the dream, and you've got to keep that dream alive and continue to pursue it. So with all that said, you can be great, and keep this in mind, at anything you have the talents to be, right? People may often tell you can do anything you want to do in life. That's not true. But you can do anything you have the talents to be. And so the question then looms, what are my talents? In the introduction, it was mentioned that I teach Clifton Strengths nationally. 90% of Fortune 500 companies are now Clifton Strengths-based. So if you've not heard about it or if you've not done it as a young professional, I encourage you to pursue understanding what is Clifton Strengths. In fact, if you get an email from me, you see my 5 themes in my signature in my emails. It's a way of life in corporate America, excuse me, that I encourage you to think about, right? When I put this picture up here, this is a picture in Mobile, Alabama. That finger is holding an acorn. Right now, some of you are at that acorn stage. You have all the potential of these oak trees that have withstood 200 years or more of hurricanes, bad weather, etc. But in the genesis, it was just a little acorn. So I say to you as students, as young professionals, maybe you're at that level of understanding of what your potential is. Maybe you're at that level of understanding in terms of what your talents are. But the reality is, as I stand here before you, that acorn represents a level of potential that each one of you represent in your own journeys in life. And so make understanding what your talents are and how you build those talents into strengths a way of life. It's a journey that continues. I stand here with gray hair as president of a foundation for 3 years. Never in my wildest dream did I think I would be president of a foundation. My degree is in television and film. I couldn't get into station management because, frankly speaking, in Alabama, there had never been a black person in station management, right? But you know what I did here in Long Beach, California? I created a TV channel. PadNet TV is channel 32 if you have Spectrum and channel 41 if you have Frontier. So they can't deny the dream, right? Keep the dream alive. Keep pushing, right? I figured out, yeah, we're going to snap, right? That's what she told us. We're going to snap. I was listening. Right? So know this, that your greatest talents are so automatic that you're not aware of using them, right? There are things that you're doing as young professionals, as students, maybe even as parents, grandparents, and friends, right? You may assume that because they are so automatic, there's nothing special about it. So don't take for granted that you can do certain things. Maybe it's creativity, as was stated earlier, in the way you do your hair, or the way you dress, or the way you maybe found this recipe that you like to create it in a way that other people may not be able to do it. And so I encourage you to think about the fact that if there's something, and one of the speakers said earlier, if it comes as a passion, if it comes as that's what you keep going back to center on, it's something that you do all these other things, but when you really find time to just be you, that's what you end up doing. Maybe it's doodling, maybe it's painting. For me, it's writing, right? In fact, I've just this week put together pages for my next book of poetry, but it's going to have more of a theme of social consciousness, right? Because you talk about people and the rare air, there are not many people that look like me as presidents of foundations. There's not been many people that look like me that's created a TV channel. There's not many people, right? I could go on in my career, but here I stand. Here I stand proudly before you to say that if I can do it, you can do it. Whoever's listening here, understand that principle, because sometimes we don't have people to reinforce that point of view to us. We think we're all alone on the journey, and we're not. Right? It's never too late to become everything you were created to be. You are not who other people say you are. How many times do we get influenced by those who aren't? One of the young leaders here said that necessarily that counselor isn't always the best person or the only person to talk to. And it could be not because they are trying to take you down or trying to be ignorant to the facts, but that's just the reality, that they're ignorant to your journey and what you've been facing to achieve what you're trying to achieve. So you have to seek first to understand and build a bigger circle around you, and you take a little bit from everyone to create the whole picture that makes you, you. You're destined to leave your mark. All of us are. When I leave mine, it may be in television, it may be in youth development. Some of you young professionals or youngsters here, or I say youngsters, but at 65, I feel like everybody's youngsters now. But how many of you have heard the name Giveon? Right, I see you raising your hands. Well, Giveon used to be in my office asking for potato chips and water and this and that because he came through the Leadership Academy Mentoring Program that I created at the Long Beach Community Action Partnership. Little did he know that he'd be now texting me from Amsterdam or wherever he is on his tour. Little did I know that night that he asked me to come open up so he could have his first showcase. I didn't want to do it, but I did it because I believed in him. Right? You've heard it now, right? But you know what makes me really proud of him? Not the fact that he was nominated for 6 Grammy Awards this year. The fact that 2 weeks ago, him and his team donated a studio to VIP Records here in Long Beach because he wanted to give back. That's what's real, right? When you guys up here doing what you do, get to that place in life where you understand giving back doesn't take you back. In fact, it elevates you forward faster than you could ever imagine. Make friends before you need friends. Plant seeds and watch them grow, but you have to nurture it to see it grow. I'm not speaking to you about a particular career path. I'm hopeful that I'm speaking to you from the heart about life, and no matter what path you take, these are principles that are going to be important to you. Individual and team success requires knowing your inherent talents. I keep reiterating that. Inherent talents become strengths. Vision without action is just a dream, right? So yes, have the dream, but put some action behind it, whether it be in pursuit of a career path that you never imagined, such as what I'm doing, whether it be in finding people around you, all right? If you're the smartest person in your circle, build a bigger circle, right? Keep growing. That's just real. Right? That's what I continue to do. As soon as I became president of a foundation, I reached out to 2 or 3 other foundations. And in fact, now they embrace me, and I'm sharing ideas with them from my world. They're sharing ideas with me from the foundation world. And collectively, we're making a profound impact in this community and other communities. So continue to do that, right? I often say that being the president, the executive director, a board member, a consultant, a collaborator, those are the things that I do, right? The things that I am are being an author, being a speaker, a grandfather, an advocate, a brother, a friend, a recording artist, right? Such attributes of who I am. When you reach the place in life where the intersection of what you do and who you are come together, that's when it's not like going to work. That's when you're getting paid to do what you love, and that's a beautiful place to be. That's what you should pursue. Understanding when you can get there. It doesn't have to be at my age, but frankly, that's where I am now. And I'm asked to do many, many different things, such as this. I leave here, I'll switch shoes, and I'll be out in the garden with my granddaughter who's here with me, Chloe, and we'll be painting raised beds in a community garden in a place where you would never imagine a community garden would be. Right? Not because I just have to, but because I want to. And I want to teach her about being involved in the community. And so community is everything, and I hope that you guys find ways to volunteer. We just funded $1.7 million to 55 nonprofits, right, this past year as the Miller Foundation. Now, that was 80-something that applied. Last year, I tried to make sure that I made a site visit to everyone that we funded. I got through 67 of them, and 2 things that I learned in those site visits. One was that youth mental health is a big concern as a result of COVID and as a result of all the dynamics of being at home and trying to learn without support networks and all of those dramas. So what we did as collectives was to put together what began as a youth mental health initiative. Now it's called something differently, but in Central Long Beach, 2 middle schools, all the Boys and Girls Clubs now have interns from Cal State Long Beach helping out with Masters of Social Work. So the Master of Social Work is overseeing them, and they're able to make a contribution to help students within that area. my creativity is not just in writing. My creativity is bringing people together and program design, et cetera. So that's what I'm saying. My creativity is not speaking by this mic. They're about to pull me off the stage. Right? That's what happens when you, let me just say, you guys who were up here speaking, don't feel bad, because I was the key speaker for Cal State Long Beach commencement in Angel Stadium, 15,000 people, right? I'm walking out, I get up on stage, my tassel's blowing in my face, I'm pulling it back. People are on all three levels from first base to third base. And I'm speaking and I'm looking down and the crowd starts to roar and I'm like, yeah, I got him. And when I look up, it was a beach ball bouncing around. So never get full of yourself, right? So let me get through this right. The best that anyone can become by focusing on a weakness is mediocre. If I asked you to sign your name right now 5 times, you would do it and wouldn't think twice. If I ask you to sign your name again 5 times with your offhand, the collective anxiety in this room would rise, and that's an exercise I do when I teach the class, right? The key to that story is you can work on a strength and exponentially it will grow. You can work on a weakness and the best that you'll become is mediocre. So why not focus on your strengths? Why not understand what your talents are that can become strengths and focus your energy there, right? That's what I want to leave you with as I talk to a lot of organizations. I can't talk about all of this, but I will talk about this. Dare I try? You are the brand. If you think Cartier, if you think Mercedes, if you think any label that you think is at the highest level, right? Certain imagery comes to your mind. If you think Dollar Tree, if you think Walmart, if you think some other stores, another imagery comes to mind. My question to you as young professionals, as students, what image comes to mind when someone mentions your name? What image comes to mind when that counselor says, oh, I see her on my schedule. Oh, man, how am I going to get it? Well, I see him coming in my class. I've heard about him from Miss So-and-so, right? What is your brand? Because it starts now. However age you are, it starts now, right? And so what are you going to do to protect that brand? What are you going to do to create that brand in a way that you'll be proud that it precedes you? My reputation in this city precedes me, right? The best that you can become, I've already talked about that. These things, again, I just want to encourage you to find that place where what you do to get paid for and who you are intersect. I wake up now in the middle of the night, I keep my phone. It used to be a pad, but now I'm trying to be cool like you guys and type a lot, right? But I type, messages come to me in terms of a theme, et cetera, for a song or a poem or whatever the case may be. And next thing you know, it's just flowing the next morning on my computer desktop. So it's a beautiful place when you can make those two places intersect, right? Am I going backwards or what? Okay. I think I'm at school, at work. Do you have the opportunity to do what you do best every day? This was the box that I believed I was in, that other people put around me growing up. When I broke away out of that box, I realized that all these opportunities were available to me. Don't let people put you in a box. One of our colleagues talked about teamwork, right? Look at the diversity in this picture, right? Look at the enemies who are working in collaboration all of a sudden. Look at the fact that they're all at one goal. Yes, the dog could get up there and get the cake, but the day is going to come when the cat's got to get up in a tree or get up in a door or something. And so he's like, yo, today I'm going to play this role. Tomorrow I might need you, right? So think about teamwork in a fun way. This one speaks for itself. Am I done? That's not my slide, so it must be. Thank you. Let's go.
All right, thank you so much. I'm going to invite Dejana, Max, come on up. We're going to turn those lights on. So we once again have an opportunity to do some questions and answers. And each of our panelists have a microphone, so you can ask one or all of them. Who has our first question?
Hi, so my question is for everyone here. Since you guys all have like very different career paths and goals and everything that you guys have done, how and where have you guys found your own success? How and where have you found your success?
Sorry, you said how?
How and where
Oh,
have you
how.
found your success?
I can go with that one. So for me, I really like what you just said about the intersection of who you are and what you do. That's it, right? I think I found my success because everything that I engage in, I find joy in. And so that's how I measure my success is, am I engaging in things joyfully? And that's kind of how it's rolled out for me. So, and that's not what I would have defined as success 5 years ago or 10 years ago or even 15 years ago. I was going to be a world famous marine biologist. Oh, wait, I am. But, so, I'm sorry. Joy in knowing what I do is having an impact, and I'm having some sort of meaningful impact on the people, the environment, some sort of meaningful impact in what me being on planet Earth is. That's where I get joy. Like I get joy in the impact.
Yeah, for me, as I look out at this audience, now that I can see, because up there you just see this like in an interrogation room. I'm disappointed that this room isn't packed with young black students that should be here, right? And so what can we do? What I'm asking myself as I'm looking, what can I do as president of the Miller Foundation to make sure this room is never not standing room only? Never should it be, right? Because look at the genius down here. Look at my colleagues who I hope I never lose touch with after now meeting them, right? And so for me, it's that opportunity to just do what I love, what I'm passionate about. And by the way, I get paid. Oh, cool, right? And I can live the quality of life. But also, I can't eat steak and look at someone homeless walk by and not feel something viscerally inside. So a rising tide lifts all boats. So what can we do? What can I do to lift my colleagues, my focus now is legacy. If I'm one of the first, and I've been the first in more ways than I could remember now. If I'm one of the first, I feel like I'm obligated to my grandchildren and the legacy of those that come after them to leave it where they may overcome barriers, but it won't be some of the same ones that I've had to do. So when you're doing something good for a greater good and not just you, I think it comes back to you in ways you never can imagine.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And I think, yeah, just echoing those sentiments, giving back to the community and those and building up people that are coming after you. And yeah, that's why I feel honored to be here. I think, you know, finding things like you were saying, that intersect for me. It was finding, okay, marketing intersecting with the environment and how can I get more people involved in wanting to care about this thing that I care about so deeply. And so that's where I feel it's come from.
I think this conversation is going like in a really good place. Because we've talked about it, black people, they're not really comfortable with the ocean, with the sea. He said, his grandfather said, if you say I will drown, call the police, because, you know, we're not comfortable. So I would like to know, what are opportunities or what are things that you guys are doing for our black students to be exposed to the ocean to make us more comfortable, that we can access, that we can kind of say, you know what, I can sign up next week and, I can experience it.
Well, from the Miller Foundation perspective, I'm proud to say that there's an organization here in Long Beach, a nonprofit called Pools of Hope. You don't even think that's Long Beach. It's like 1 block away from Compton, underneath the 91 freeway, right? But they have a beautiful indoor pool up there. You'd never know it was there. So what we did as a foundation, and Munzer Foundation also, and I think one other, we funded a collaboration with Pools of Hope, working with this beautiful new Olympic pool at Long Beach City College. If you've not seen it, it's amazing, right? And so they had this program this summer where they were bringing kids from North Long Beach to the City College pool to learn about swimming, et cetera. So from a foundation perspective, all of us have to fish where we're anchored, meaning, you know, take care of the world in your sphere of influence. So for me, as a foundation, I'm trying to fund programs that will address the opportunity for young black men, brown men, purple men, I don't care, right? For minority youth and all youth to learn, but specifically because that's where it's a need, that if there's someone that's trying to create something like that, chances are, me as the Miller Foundation, I'm gonna do my best, even if it's out of my own specific fund. The other thing is supporting the Aquarium, right? To expose to a day like today. I just think there's so many opportunities here that youth don't understand, that my colleagues here know intimately. I was trying to think about, if you do this diving class in Long Beach, how could I get minority kids in Long Beach? Because I can't fund you in Santa Monica, but I could fund it in Long Beach possibly, right? And so it's just that openness. Sometimes people are just closed-minded and they don't want to expand. But the youth who are not here today, the parents that aren't insisting that their youth are here today, they're missing out.
Yeah, I mean, for Diversify, I mean, we pay for everything for our program. So students who get accepted into the program, they don't pay for, or their families pay for anything. We pay for transportation. We've had some students from Long Beach, and so, you know, it's really providing making this as accessible as possible for something that is traditionally, you know, very hard to get into, very financial barriers very, very high. And so if we can do the little bit to lower that barrier, that initial barrier, and if that can change the trajectory of somebody's life in some way, then I think even if it's one person, then to me it's valuable.
For me, I grew up in Long Beach, so I'm local here. So thank you for all your work here. I went to Jordan High School. That's why I don't know if there's anybody from Jordan High School in the house right here. It's about like so I was afraid of the ocean. I was afraid of water. I did not know how to swim. I went to college to do marine biology. They told me to sign up for the scuba class. I was the only person who didn't know how to swim to do scuba. So there are all these barriers. So one thing that in my own journey, I've been trying to clearly identify, because while I was living it, I didn't recognize all the barriers. Life was just hard. So now I'm at the point where I can kind of identify some of the challenges and some of those barriers that I came in contact with in my journey, and I'm in a position to tear down those walls and knock those down. And so for me, some of the work that I'm currently doing is finding foundations and partnering with them to create windows of opportunity to knock down those barriers, whether that is swimming, whether that's resources and money. The one resource that I haven't figured out how to get more of is time. If any of you figure that one out, please let me know. But 90% of my energy is focused on identifying what are some of the barriers and the significant challenges that limited access or that took me out of the game. Like I was already in the game, but then this thing knocked me off on my feet, like just knocked me down and made me feel like I couldn't continue. So my work is all about identifying those and partnering, collaborating, building the team to collectively tear those down, to make it more accessible for all people to engage in this type of work. Whether they become world famous marine biologists, communicators, artists, teachers, athletes, I just want to make it easier, right? I don't want them to have to go through that same thing. So to answer your question, like what are we doing? I think we're all in the same place. Like we want to make sure that I'm trying to use my privilege at this point in my career, in my life, to make sure that I am doing what I can to knock down those barriers and eliminate those challenges so that everybody has access and that they feel like they belong.
My question was for Derek, but I think that any one of you can add thoughts if you have. So you talked about finding your strengths and nurturing them, and I'm just wondering kind of what the nurturing, the questions you would ask to begin to nurture. So like once you find your strengths and you figured out something, okay, I'm good at this, like what kind of questions should you start asking that can point you in the direction of moving into nurturing that strength and building on that?
So I think there's a word I learned when I took this position at the Miller Foundation. When I took a visit to the Japanese gardens, the executive director slid a book across the table entitled Ikigai. Ikigai means purpose. The average age in a couple of islands in Japan is like 90 years old, because it's like if you're living your purpose, you know, it's a beautiful place to be. That's what made it click in my head that I had made the right move, because I was on a national board, I was doing many different things. But now I feel like I'm at 30,000 feet, seeing what other nonprofits are doing instead of building one nonprofit, and able to plant seeds and help is the best way I can. So to your point about how do you identify those strengths, the best that I could say to you right now is through, and I'm not trying to promote Clifton Strengths in the sense of a book, but inherently it has the 34 themes. And you go online and you do this 45-minute assessment and it gives you your top 5. So let's say mine are maximizer and belief and strategic. Then the best thing for me to do is to say, well, if I have these talents and these strengths, then I look at the world of careers and say, well, what careers would lend themselves best for these types of talents and strengths? So the first thing you have to do is to say, well, who am I and what do I love? And then you see what the world is. Now to take it to another level, right, you can create that world. Because right now it may not exist. In fact, 50% of the jobs that will exist by the time you guys reach the peak of your careers don't exist right now. If you think about just how old this is iPhone 14. What happened before that, right? What do we have? So you've got to create. The best way to predict the future is to create the future sometimes. And create that future around the talents and the strengths that you have says that it's a safe place to put in all that hard work, because you have to put in long hours. I'm getting home late 3 nights a week out speaking, but I don't see it as a labor. I see it as an opportunity to share, to help build my community. So I think those are elements. We could talk more offline with any of you, right? If you have my email address, because I feel like that's where I am now. It's not about the pay. It's about the opportunity to give back, and I know what's right for me will come to me.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank you for being here, and I just want to say you make me so proud to see you all living your truth and trying to reach back for our young people. I teach at Long Beach Poly, and there are hundreds of young black people there, and it's my passion to grab them and say, hey, here are some wonderful things and wonderful opportunities. But right now it's like pulling teeth to get them to come, just to see some things that are available. Right now, if it's not cool and it's not about rap or athletics or money, or I just don't know what to do. And I see you all trying to create the opportunities and avenues. So I just wonder, how can we work together to get the young people interested enough, especially those first generation students who don't have that example at home? So I ask that to the city, Long Beach, the Aquarium, everyone who's trying.
Yeah, I think it's difficult, and truthfully, we've had a decent amount of students apply. I would say maybe 50 applications total since we started in 2020, and maybe I'll say 10% are black. We have a lot of other minority groups, but not as many black students. And so I would really like to collaborate and try to get more applicants, more black people involved. And I think it's working with the schools. We try to reach out to schools. So, definitely like to connect after this. Meeting them where they are. I think I'm 32 now, but it doesn't feel like I was there that long ago. But then when I'm around the students, I realize, oh, maybe it was kind of a long time ago. But things change fast. So I think, just trying to connect where they are. And I think the more times that we can show kind of imagery of students like themselves doing these things, maybe that'll help to have a snowballing effect, hopefully.
This is a challenge that I see. Like I was telling you how I look at the challenges. And it's something that I'm actively trying to engage and see what we can do about it. And most recently, what we've done is we've started to run STEM camps that are focused on belonging. So it's all about identity and celebrating self and culture and how you show up. That's the primary focus. And then we bring in the STEM. So a lot of programs or opportunities, and even me as a young person that my mom and dad would send me to, I'm in these camps that aren't recognizing the intersections of how I show up in the camp, if you know what I mean, that I'm showing up at this science camp as a young black girl that is only allowed to play on my block, have never been anywhere else in my life, people showing up with language barriers. Like we go to these camps and they're not honoring and recognizing the intersections of how young people show up in the world. And so one thing that we've been working on is how can we create experiences for young people that celebrate how they are showing up at that specific moment in the world and not so much focused on the outcome of STEM learning and career paths and all these data points, but on celebrating those youth and how they're showing up at that moment and engaging in whatever program we have. And so that's one thing that I am happy to partner with any school in Long Beach, any organization, and figure out how can we come together, utilize our resources, and to build a team where we're creating these experiences that are celebrating the individuals and all of their beautiful intersections and how they show up, regardless. So that's one effort that I'm happy to partner with. Any of you and any of you listening, just reach out.
I agree with that 200%. And I would say for you, I recently was asked to speak at Poly Pal. That was tougher than speaking to 15,000 people. And it was only about 30 in the room. But you know what? Because I just took off the tie and got real, about 10 of them were in line waiting to talk to me at the end. And the teacher was like, whoa, we've never seen this before. Because I met them where they are and brought them to where I wanted them to be in terms of understanding. And so I think sometimes we just have to do that. We have to take off the suit. We have to take off the titles and just say, you're a human being, I'm a human being. You've had struggles, I've had struggles. But you know what? You can do this. It's going to take commitment. It's going to take other people, but you can do this, right? My girlfriend laughs at me because I iron my shorts, I say, when I go get coffee. And why are you doing that? Because I never know. I'm always on. I'm always on. I mean, once you get to a certain level, you're always on, right? And so there are many ways to pursue your dream. You've got to know that you have the talents for the it. It may not even exist yet, which is the beauty of the life that we live. So get busy understanding that, and let's meet them where they are. I'm offering myself, I pass Poly often, every day, right? So reach out to me, I'll find out what I can do, who I can put. I found that food and transportation are two key issues to teen programs, right? Food and transportation, that's how we built the LAMP program and ended up taking 12 young men to the White House as guests of the Grammy Museum. And then the next day, I took them to walk the halls of Congress to advocate for funding to help young men and women of color get to that level of success. I met them where they were and helped them get to where they wanted to be. Now, unfortunately, only 11 were able to go into the White House because one of them had a record already as a teen because he had been involved with gangs. Right? That broke my heart. But we took him over to Howard University campus while the rest of us were somewhere else and let him see what that experience would be. So every barrier is an opportunity to be innovative, to come up with another success.
Tajana, you mentioned that coming from high school, you didn't have critical thinking and you just learned to basically do school. What would you have needed or wanted differently from your teachers?
I love sharing. I love answering this question because I reflect on this often. I grew up in an era where we read the book and answered the questions at the end of the chapter. And I have yet to find a career, a situation, anything where that skill was super important for me. So I spent lots of years mastering reading something and answering a question, but not critically thinking about what I was reading, not connecting it to my life or anything globally happening around me, and not really engaging and practicing in coming up with solutions or problem solving. So what I would say is what I wish I had in school and in high school, even in junior high, actually it might have happened a little more in elementary school than it did in junior high and high school, was to give me the opportunity to learn to think, to be able to creatively think about things. Give me a problem that doesn't have a solution and let me sit with it for a really, really long time. And then tell me, yeah, well, that one doesn't have a solution. But that path of sitting with that for a really, really long, that skill set is something that I really was lacking when I went into college. And I found that some of my peers that had come from other areas and had other educational experiences had more experience in critical thinking and being creative, where I was really good at tell me exactly what you need, I will identify that and repeat it back to you. Because that is how I mastered my primary and secondary school. So and school's not like that as much anymore. We've got new things going on, I'm in a classroom, I'm in a school, I get to see it first on. And so our young people, I have hope, and that's where my joy is that they are engaging in critical thinking and creativity because they need to, like you said, we don't know what type of jobs they're going to be doing when they enter the workforce. We're definitely creating lots of problems for them to figure out how to solve. So we definitely want them to be creative and critical problem solvers with courage and resilience. And so creating learning opportunities that allow students to really practice those skills, I think, are meaningful and engaging in school, and that'll actually be helpful in whatever career path they choose in the future. Yeah, thanks for asking.
All right. I don't know how you guys did it, but you ended right at 12:15. That was pretty amazing. I think some of the themes that we talked about, representation, community, connection. Speaking for the Aquarium, it is amazing to see these conversations, and hearing that there are more conversations to come is the reason we wanted to come all together. Derek, you mentioned that transportation and food are essential to teen programs. Our teen coordinator in the back was like, that's what I always say. I also think food is pretty essential to building community, coming together and eating a meal together. So guess what? That's what we get to do next. Our scholars, our high school students, our chaperones, our panelists are invited to join us for lunch. If anyone else is interested in staying for lunch, you are welcome to come and join us in the Ocean Science Center. To everyone who is watching remotely, thank you so much for joining us today. To everyone who is here, to our program supporters, to our Aquarium board members, to our staff who supported this event, thank you so much for this wonderful morning. I hope you were inspired and encouraged to be in this community and to see this community growing and achieving what we're hoping to accomplish. Please know that this afternoon, our scholars will have some opportunity to connect more deeply with different members of our Aquarium staff. So we have special programming just for our scholars this afternoon. For our high school students, we're really excited to have lunch with you and to continue these conversations, but you will also have an opportunity to explore the Aquarium with your chaperones. I know, I promise you're gonna get to do that. If anyone is leaving us at this point, if you do not have your parking taken care of, Alina is in the back. She can help you with a chaser ticket to get out of the parking structure. And I just want to say thank you again to everyone. I hope you feel that warm fuzzy inside just like I do. So thank you.